I had 3 seconds to decide whether to pull the trigger and end Andrea Vitelli's life, or to let him live and betray everything I'd been trained for. You know what's funny about destiny? Sometimes it doesn't care about your plans. Sometimes it walks up to you in the middle of a gunfight and changes everything you thought you knew about right and wrong. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me ask you something first. Have you ever been so sure you were doing the right thing that you'd stake your life on it? Have you ever believed in something so deeply that you'd kill for it without question?
I did.
Until I discovered that everything I believed in was built on lies and blood. My name is Victoria Kane, and this is the story of how I went from being the most lethal operative in a government-sanctioned tactical unit to falling in love with a man I was sent to assassinate. This is about how I discovered that the monsters aren't always the ones society tells you to fear. Before we go further, hey, how are you doing today? Seriously, I want to know. Are you watching this from your bed, maybe during your lunch break, or are you one of those people who listens to stories while driving? Drop a comment and let me know where you're tuning in from and what the weather's like there. I love hearing from people all over the world. And listen, if you end up enjoying the story, which I promise you will because it's got everything like action, betrayal, romance, and revenge, then please hit that like button and subscribe. Share it with someone who loves a good story about karma and justice. Trust me, you'll want to follow this channel because the stories I have lined up will blow your mind. But let me start from the beginning. I was 26 years old when they gave me the Vitelli assignment. 26 and already considered one of the top 5 operatives in the entire Tactical Response Unit, or TRU as we called it. I'd spent 8 years training for moments like this. 8 years learning how to kill in 37 different ways, how to disappear in a crowd of thousands, how to read a room in seconds and identify every exit and threat. My father had been a senior official in TRU before he died in what they told me was a training accident when I was 18. He'd always said I had the instincts for this work, that I saw things other people missed. I believed in TRU the way some people believe in God. It was my religion, my purpose, my family. We were the good guys. We took down terrorists, arms dealers, human traffickers, and organized crime bosses who thought they were above the law. We did the dirty work that kept innocent people safe. At least, that's what I thought. The briefing for the Vitelli assignment happened on a Tuesday morning in November. I remember because it was my father's birthday. He would have been 53. I always visited his grave on his birthday, but Commander Bishop had called an emergency meeting, so I'd gone straight to headquarters instead. Bishop was a man in his late 50s with silver hair and eyes that never seemed to blink. He'd been with TRU for 30 years and had personally recruited my father back in the day. After Dad died, Bishop took a special interest in my career, mentored me, pushed me harder than anyone else. I thought it was because he'd cared about my father. Looking back now, I realize he was grooming me for something specific. Victoria, Bishop said as I entered his office. Sit down. We have a situation. I sat across from his desk, my posture perfect, my mind alert. 2 other senior officials were there, Carter and Mills. Both had been at my father's funeral. Both had told me what a hero he was. Andrea Vitelli, Bishop said, sliding a file across the desk. 34 years old. Took over the Vitelli crime family 3 years ago after his father was killed by a rival organization. In those 3 years, he's consolidated power like we've never seen. He's smart, ruthless when necessary, but he operates with a code. Doesn't deal in drugs, doesn't touch human trafficking, focuses primarily on protection, gambling, and legitimate business ventures that he uses to launder money. I opened the file and studied the photographs. Andrea Vitelli had dark hair, sharp features, and eyes that seemed to see right through the camera. There was an intensity to him, even in still images. Why is TRU interested? I asked. He sounds like a typical organized crime figure. Local law enforcement should handle this. Because Andrea Vitelli has information, Carter said. Information about weapon shipments coming into the country. Information about terrorist cells using criminal networks to move money and personnel. We've been trying to infiltrate his organization for 2 years with no success. He's too careful. Trusts almost no one except his inner circle. And you want me to get close to him? I said. It wasn't a question. Bishop leaned forward. We want you to become indispensable to him. We've been monitoring his operations, and we know he's been having security issues. 3 attempts on his life in the last 6 months. His current bodyguards are loyal, but not particularly skilled. We're going to create a situation where you can demonstrate your abilities. Make him see that he needs you. And once I'm inside, you gather intelligence. You find out everything about his operations, his contacts, his suppliers. And when we have what we need, you eliminate him and make it look like one of his enemies finally succeeded. The words should have meant nothing to me. I'd killed before. 17 confirmed eliminations in my 8 years with TRU. Every single one had been a bad person. Every single one had deserved it. This should have been just another assignment. When do I start? I asked. Bishop smiled. The situation is already in motion. 3 days from now, Vitelli will be at a private card game at the Sapphire Club downtown. We've arranged for one of his rivals to make a move. Your job is to be in the right place at the right time and save his life. After that, he'll be curious about you. We'll plant information that suggests you're a former military contractor looking for work. He'll do his research, and everything will check out because we've spent months building your cover identity. Once he hires you, the rest is up to you. I took the file and stood. I'll review everything and prepare. Victoria, Bishop said as I reached the door. Your father would be proud of you. This assignment, if successful, will be the biggest takedown TRU has achieved in a decade. Andrea Vitelli is a disease in the city. You'll be saving countless lives. I nodded and left. I believed him. I believed every word. 3 days later, I was at the Sapphire Club wearing a black leather jacket, dark jeans, and boots that looked casual but had reinforced steel in the toes. My gun was concealed at the small of my back. I'd spent the previous 72 hours memorizing everything about Andrea Vitelli. His patterns, his preferences, his people. I knew he liked scotch, but never had more than 2 drinks. I knew he was left-handed. I knew he had a younger sister named Isabella who was studying medicine in Europe, and that he'd do anything to protect her. The Sapphire Club was owned by one of Vitelli's associates. The card game was invitation only, high stakes. Mostly legitimate businessmen with a few criminal elements mixed in. I'd gotten in by taking the place of one of the regular players who'd been paid off by TRU to suddenly come down with food poisoning. Andrea Vitelli sat at the main table with 4 other men. I was at a smaller table nearby with 3 players I didn't know and didn't care about. My focus was on Vitelli and the exits. According to intelligence, the hit would come at approximately 11:15, about 40 minutes from now. I'd seen dozens of photographs of Andrea Vitelli, but nothing had prepared me for the presence of him in person. He commanded the space around him without trying. When he spoke, people leaned in. When he laughed, which wasn't often, it was genuine. He played cards with a focused intensity, but there was something almost relaxed about the way he moved, like a predator so confident in his abilities that he didn't need to posture. His right-hand man, a guy named Tony Soprano, yes, that was actually his name, and no, he wasn't related to the TV character, sat to his left. Tony was in his 40s, built like a boxer, and had eyes that constantly scanned the room. He was the cautious one, the paranoid one, the one who'd kept Andrea alive through 3 assassination attempts. I played my cards and lost small amounts deliberately while keeping my peripheral vision on the main entrance and the service door that led to the kitchens. At 11:10, I excused myself from my table and moved toward the bar, positioning myself with a clear line of sight to Andrea's table and the service entrance. At 11:13, 3 men in server uniforms pushed through the service door carrying trays. But their body language was all wrong. Too tense. Too focused. I saw the moment one of them let his tray dip, and I caught the glimpse of metal underneath. Everything slowed down the way it always did when action was imminent. My training took over. I moved before my conscious mind fully processed the threat. The first shooter pulled his weapon from under the tray and aimed at Andrea. I was already in motion, my gun drawn, my body moving between them. I fired twice. Center mass. The first shooter went down. The second shooter turned toward me, and I put a round through his shoulder, then swept his legs and put him on the ground. The third shooter had his weapon up, but Tony Soprano had reacted by then and was pulling Andrea down. I adjusted my aim and fired, hitting the third shooter's gun hand. His weapon clattered away. The entire thing took maybe 6 seconds. 3 attackers neutralized. 0 casualties among the civilians. Andrea Vitelli alive and staring at me with an expression I couldn't quite read. "Who the hell are you?" Tony demanded, his own weapon drawn, and pointed in my general direction. I lowered my gun slowly, hands visible. "Someone who just saved your boss's life." Andrea stood up, brushing off his suit jacket like gunfire was a minor inconvenience. He studied me with those intense dark eyes. "You move well. Military?" "Former military contractor," I said, sticking to my cover story. "I came here to play cards, not get involved in mob business, but I don't like seeing people get shot at when I can prevent it." "Convenient timing," Tony said, suspicion heavy in his voice. "You just happen to be here, and just happen to be faster than 3 professional hitters?" I shrugged. I don't believe in coincidences. But I also don't believe in letting people die when I can help. "You're welcome, by the way." Andrea held up a hand, silencing Tony. He walked toward me, stopped about 3 feet away. Up close, he was even more striking. There was intelligence in his eyes, but also something else. Weariness, maybe. Like he was tired of constantly watching his back. "What's your name?" he asked.
Victoria Kane.
"You looking for work, Victoria Kane?" "Depends on what kind of work. The kind where you keep people alive instead of killing them. The kind where you use those impressive skills for something other than playing cards and being conveniently heroic." I pretended to consider it. Let the silence stretch just long enough. "I'm expensive. I'm rich. I work alone. I don't take orders well. I don't micromanage people who are good at their jobs. Your guy there doesn't trust me," I said, nodding toward Tony. "Tony doesn't trust anyone. It's why he's still alive. But I make the decisions." Andrea extended his hand. "You start tomorrow. Be at this address at 8 in the morning." He handed me a business card. "We'll discuss terms, and you can show me exactly what you're capable of." I took the card and shook his hand. His grip was firm, confident. "I'll be there." As I left the Sapphire Club that night, I felt the familiar rush of a successful operation. Phase 1 complete. I'd gotten his attention. I'd demonstrated value. Now I just had to get close enough to finish the job. I called Bishop from a secure line on my way home. "It's done." He offered me a position. "I start tomorrow." "Excellent work, Victoria. Remember, take your time. Build trust. We need the intelligence before we move to elimination. This could take weeks or even months." "Understood. And Victoria? Be careful. Andrea Vitelli is dangerous. Don't let your guard down for a second. Don't forget what he is." "I won't," I said. "He's just another target." I believed that then. I really did. I thought I knew exactly what kind of man Andrea Vitelli was. I thought I understood the nature of good and evil, right and wrong. I thought my purpose was clear, and my mission was just. I had no idea that in the next few months, everything I believed would be shattered. I had no idea that the man I was sent to kill would become the only person I could trust. I had no idea that the organization I'd dedicated my life to was responsible for my father's death. But that first night, driving home through the city streets with adrenaline still humming through my veins, I was just an operative who'd successfully completed Phase 1 of an assignment. I was Victoria Kane, loyal soldier of the Tactical Response Unit, defender of justice, my father's daughter. I was so sure I was one of the good guys. That certainty wouldn't last much longer. The Vitelli estate was not what I expected. I'd imagined something gaudy, ostentatious, the kind of place that screamed new money and criminal empire. Instead, I pulled up to a gated property in the suburbs that looked more like a successful businessman's home than a mob boss's headquarters. The house was large but tasteful, modern architecture with clean lines, surrounded by mature trees and professional landscaping. Security cameras were visible but discreet. The gate opened after I announced myself through the intercom. Tony Soprano met me at the front door. In daylight, He looked older than I'd initially thought, probably mid-40s, with graying hair at his temples and scars on his knuckles that suggested a rough past. His expression made it clear he wasn't happy about my presence. "Before you go in," he said, blocking the doorway, "I need to make something very clear. I don't know who you are or where you really came from, but I've been keeping Andrea alive for 12 years. I've seen people try every angle to get close to him. Pretty girls, tough guys, sob stories, hero moments. All of it. So whatever game you're playing, I'm watching. One wrong move, and I don't care how fast you are." I met his stare without blinking. "I'm not playing any game. Your boss offered me a job. I need work. It's that simple." "Nothing is ever that simple." "Then I guess we'll both stay alert." He studied me for another long moment, then stepped aside. "He's in the office. Down the hall, last door on the right." The interior of the house matched the exterior. Tasteful, expensive, but not showy. Hardwood floors, art on the walls that looked original, furniture that was clearly high quality. It felt like a home, not a fortress. That surprised me more than it should have. Andrea's office was a large room with floor-to-ceiling bookshelves, a substantial desk, and windows overlooking a garden. He stood when I entered, gesturing to a chair across from his desk. "Victoria." Punctual. I like that. He sat after I did. "Let's talk about what this job actually entails. I assume Tony gave you his suspicious disapproval routine." He made his feelings clear. "Tony's job is to be paranoid. My job is to make decisions. You demonstrated something last night that I haven't seen in my organization in a long time. Not just skill, but judgment. You assessed a threat, neutralized it efficiently, and didn't escalate beyond what was necessary. You could have killed all 3 of those men. You chose not to." "Dead men can't answer questions about who sent them," I said. He smiled slightly. "Exactly. Most people in high-pressure situations either freeze or overreact. You did neither. That's rare. Tell me about your background." I fed him the cover story Thierry had built. Former Army, specialized training, worked private security contracts overseas for 5 years, recently returned to the States, looking for stable work. All of it was backed up by documentation that would survive any standard background check. Thierry had made sure of that. Andrea listened without interrupting, his dark eyes focused on my face like he was reading more than just my words. When I finished, he leaned back in his chair. "I'll pay you 3 times what you'd make in private security. In exchange, your job is simple. Keep me alive. Go where I go. Watch what I watch. Tell me what you see. I have good people working for me, but most of them are loyal muscle, not strategic thinkers. Tony is both, which is why he's lasted so long, but he can't be everywhere. I need someone with fresh eyes, someone who isn't embedded in the existing power structures and politics of my organization." "Why would you trust me with that? You just met me." "I don't trust you. Yet. But I trust my instincts about people, and my instincts say you're exactly what you appear to be. A highly skilled professional looking for work. If I'm wrong, well, I've survived worse mistakes." "What about your current security team? How are they going to feel about an outsider coming in?" "They'll adjust or they'll find employment elsewhere. This is not a democracy." He stood and walked to the window. "I'm going to be direct with you, Victoria. 3 attempts on my life in 6 months suggest someone is making a serious play. It's not just business as usual. Someone wants me dead badly, enough to keep trying despite the risks. I need to figure out who before they succeed. And you think I can help with that? I think you see things other people miss. I think you think like someone trying to kill me would think. And I think having you close will either reveal that you're part of the problem or help me solve it." It was a test. He was watching my reaction, seeing if I'd give anything away. I kept my expression neutral. "Fair enough. When do I start?" "You already have. There's a business meeting this afternoon at 2. Legitimate business, investment discussions for a new restaurant venture, but some of the investors have connections to families that might want me dead. You'll come with me. Watch, listen, tell me what you notice." Over the next 4 weeks, I became Andrea Vitelli's shadow. Everywhere he went, I was 3 steps behind. Business meetings, family dinners with extended relatives, late-night visits to his various enterprises. I watched him negotiate deals, settle disputes, handle his responsibilities to his organization. And slowly, my carefully constructed assumptions started to crack. Andrea Vitelli was not what I'd been told. Yes, he ran a criminal organization. Yes, he operated outside the law. But he also followed a code that was stricter than some legal businesses I'd seen. He refused to deal in drugs, said they destroyed communities, and he wouldn't profit from that destruction. He refused to touch human trafficking, called it slavery, and said anyone in his organization caught doing it would answer to him personally. He paid his people well, took care of their families when they were in trouble, and made it clear that violence was a last resort, not a first option. I watched him spend 2 hours helping one of his driver's kids with college application essays. I saw him quietly pay the medical bills for a restaurant owner in his territory who had cancer. I observed him shut down a gambling operation because it was targeting people who couldn't afford to lose. None of it matched the profile TRU had given me. None of it fit the narrative of Andrea Vitelli as a disease that needed to be eliminated. And that scared me because it meant either TRU's intelligence was wrong or I was being manipulated. Neither option was acceptable. Tony's hostility toward me never decreased. If anything, it intensified the more time I spent with Andrea. We were at dinner one night, just the three of us at a quiet Italian restaurant Andrea's family had owned for generations, when Tony finally confronted the situation directly. "You're too perfect," Tony said, pointing his fork at me. "Nobody is this good at their job right out of the gate. You know where Andrea's going to be before he does. You spot threats that shouldn't be visible. You move like you've got radar. It's not natural." "I'm trained," I said simply. "This is what I do." "Yeah, but who trained you?"
"And why?"
"Andrea, I'm serious. Something's not right here." Andrea sipped his wine, unbothered. "Tony, you said the same thing about the last 3 people I hired for security. You thought Carlo was a cop. You thought Michelle was sleeping with my enemies for information. You thought David was skimming money. You were wrong all 3 times. I was right about Vincent. Vincent was one person out of hundreds. Even a broken clock is right twice a day." I watched this exchange with interest. The dynamic between them was complex. Tony was absolutely loyal to Andrea, had been since they were teenagers according to the background information I'd gathered. But his paranoia, while sometimes useful, also created tension. Andrea trusted his instincts about people. Tony trusted no one. "Just promise me you'll be careful," Tony said quietly. "I've got a bad feeling about this one." "Noted," Andrea said. "Victoria, tell me what you observed about the meeting this morning." I'd accompanied Andrea to a sit-down with representatives from 2 other families to discuss territory boundaries. It had been tense, but professional. The guy from the Castellano family, Joseph, he's under pressure from someone above him. His hands were shaking and he kept deferring to his phone. Someone was feeding him lines, or he was expecting a call. The representative from the Torres organization seemed genuine, but he's new to his position and trying too hard to prove himself. He'll make mistakes because he's eager. And the mediator, Judge Barrett, he's being paid by someone to favor a particular outcome. He kept steering the conversation toward giving the Castellanos more territory. Andrea smiled. "I noticed the same things. What's your recommendation?" "Don't agree to anything today.
Stall.
Do your own investigation into who's pressuring Joseph and who's paying off Barrett. The Torres guy will come around once he realizes posturing doesn't work with you." Sound advice. Andrea raised his glass. "See, Tony? She's earning her substantial salary." After dinner, Andrea asked me to take a walk with him. Just the 2 of us, which made Tony visibly tense, but Andrea waved off his concerns. We walked through a park near the restaurant, late evening, cool air, the kind of night where the city felt almost peaceful. "Can I ask you something personal?" Andrea said after a few minutes of silence. "You can ask." I might not answer. "Why do you do this kind of work? You're clearly intelligent, skilled, capable of doing anything you want. Why choose to work for someone like me?" I'd prepared for this question. The cover story had an answer. But standing there in the dark with Andrea Vitelli, a man who was supposed to be a monster but kept revealing himself to be something more complicated, I found myself giving him a piece of truth instead. My father believed in service. He believed that some people are called to stand between the innocent and the dangerous. He dedicated his life to that, and he died doing it. I guess I'm following in his footsteps. Maybe trying to honor his memory. Your father sounds like a good man. He was the best man I ever knew. I'm sorry you lost him. The sincerity in his voice caught me off guard. This was not how targets were supposed to behave. They weren't supposed to be empathetic. They weren't supposed to ask about your life with genuine interest. They were supposed to be clear-cut villains, so eliminating them felt righteous. What about you? I asked, turning the conversation. How does someone end up running a crime family? That's not usually a career choice people make deliberately. Andrea was quiet for a long moment. We'd reached a bench, and he sat down, gesturing for me to join him. I was supposed to be a lawyer. I went to law school, passed the bar, had a job lined up at a firm. Then my father was killed, and my younger brother, who was supposed to take over, was killed at the same time. My sister was 15. Someone had to step up and protect her, protect the family. So I did. You could have walked away, gone into witness protection, started over, and abandoned everyone who depended on us? All the people my father had promised to protect? The families who'd been loyal for generations? That's not who I am. My father wasn't perfect, but he believed in loyalty, in keeping your word, in taking care of your people. I couldn't just let that die, because it was inconvenient for my plans. Do you regret it? He considered the question seriously. Sometimes. I think about the life I could have had. Normal job, normal family, normal problems. But then I think about all the people I've been able to help, all the worse alternatives that would have filled the power vacuum if I'd walked away. In this world, someone's going to be in charge. At least I try to do it with some kind of honor. We sat there in comfortable silence for a while. This was the moment I should have been gathering intelligence, pushing for information about his operations, his contacts, his vulnerabilities. Instead, I found myself just being present, two people having an honest conversation. My phone buzzed. A text from a number I recognized as one of TRU's secure lines. Status update required. Scheduled check-in. I stood. I should get back. Early morning tomorrow. Andrea stood as well. Thank you, Victoria,
For your work these past few weeks.
you've been invaluable. Just doing my job.
No.
You're doing more than that. You're helping me see things clearly. I appreciate it. As I drove home that night, I felt the first real stirrings of doubt. Not about my skills or my mission, but about the fundamental assumptions underlying it. Andrea Vitelli was supposed to be a clear threat, someone whose elimination would make the world safer. But the more time I spent with him, the less clear that became. I called in my status update to Bishop from my secure apartment. Gave him the sanitized version. Made progress, building trust, gathering intelligence. All true but incomplete. How long until you're ready to move to Phase 2? Bishop asked. Phase 2. Elimination. Killing Andrea Vitelli and making it look like his enemies finally succeeded. I need more time, I said. His inner circle is small and paranoid. I need to be absolutely trusted before I can get close enough to his schedule, his movements, his vulnerabilities. Don't take too long, Victoria. We have other assets in play, and we need coordination. Andrea Vitelli has information we need, but he also represents a threat to ongoing operations. The longer he remains alive, the more complicated things become. Understood. I'll move as quickly as possible without compromising the mission. After I hung up, I sat in my dark apartment and thought about my father. He'd been so proud when I joined TRU. Said I was carrying on important work. Said the world needed people willing to make hard choices for the greater good. But lately I'd been wondering what he would think about this assignment. Would he be proud of me for following orders? Or would he ask the questions Tony was asking? Would he want me to be sure about what I was doing and why? I didn't have answers. Not yet. But the certainty I'd felt a month ago was definitely starting to crack. The next morning, I arrived at Andrea's house to find it in controlled chaos. Tony met me at the door, his expression grim. We've got a problem. Andrea's sister, Isabella, is flying in from Europe. She wasn't supposed to come back for another 6 months, but Something spooked her. She thinks someone's been following her, watching her apartment. She's arriving this afternoon, and Andrea wants you to go to the airport with him to pick her up. What's the threat assessment? Unknown. Could be paranoia. Could be legitimate. Isabella is the only family Andrea has left. If someone wanted to hurt him, going after her would be the most effective way. That's why he wants you there. Maximum security. The airport pickup went smoothly. Isabella Vitelli was 22, studying medicine, and looked nothing like her brother. Where Andrea was dark and intense, Isabella was lighter, warmer, with an easy smile despite her obvious tension. She hugged Andrea tightly when she saw him. "I'm probably being ridiculous," she said as we drove back. But I couldn't shake the feeling. You know how you just know when something's wrong? I know, Andrea said. You did the right thing coming home. We'll figure out what's happening and deal with it. In the meantime, you're staying at the house where I can keep you safe. Isabella noticed me for the first time. Who's this? My new head of security.
Victoria Kane.
Victoria, my sister Isabella. The one who saved your life at the card game? Isabella asked. When Andrea nodded, she reached forward from the back seat and squeezed my shoulder. Thank you.
Seriously.
My brother is all I have. Thank you for keeping him alive. The gratitude in her voice was genuine, unguarded. It made something twist uncomfortably in my chest. She had no idea I was there to eventually kill him, that I was the real threat, not whatever shadows she'd been seeing in Europe. Over the next week, I spent a lot of time at Andrea's house as he worked to investigate the potential threat to Isabella. She was there constantly, and despite the circumstances, she was good company. Warm, funny, curious about everything. She asked me about my military background, about my training, about what it was like being a woman in a male-dominated field. Andrea respects you, she said one afternoon while we were alone in the kitchen. Andrea was in meetings, and Tony was coordinating security sweeps. I can tell. He doesn't respect many people. Most of the guys who work for him, he likes them, he's loyal to them, but he doesn't respect their judgment. He respects yours. How can you tell? Because he actually listens when you talk. He considers what you say. With most people, he's already decided what he's going to do before they finish speaking. With you, he genuinely weighs your input. She smiled. It's nice. He needs someone he can trust like that. Tony's great, but Tony sees threats everywhere. You seem to see things as they actually are. The irony of that statement was not lost on me. I was literally the biggest threat in Andrea's life, and no one could see it except possibly Tony, and even he didn't know the full truth. That evening, I was doing a security sweep of the perimeter when I found something that made my blood run cold. A listening device, professionally installed, practically invisible. I carefully removed it and brought it inside. Andrea and Tony studied it in the office. How long has this been here? Andrea asked. Can't be sure, I said. But it's high-grade equipment, government level or close to it. Not something his usual enemies would have access to. Tony's eyes locked on mine. There was something in his expression, a knowledge that made my pulse spike. Government level. Interesting. Who do you think would have access to equipment like that, Victoria? It was a direct challenge. He suspected something. Maybe not the full truth, but something. Could be several sources, I said carefully. Black market, corrupt officials, rival organizations with connections. Without more information, it's impossible to narrow down. Andrea stood and walked to the window. This changes things. If someone has been listening, they know about Isabella, about our concerns, about everything we've discussed. We need to assume we're compromised and act accordingly. We should move locations, Tony said. Get everyone somewhere secure and unpredictable. Agreed. Isabella goes to the safe house upstate. Tony, you take her. Victoria, you stay with me. We're going to draw out whoever's behind this. Andrea, that's exactly what they want. I said before I could stop myself. You're making yourself a target. I'm already a target. The difference is now I'm a target who's ready for them. He looked at me with those intense dark eyes. Unless you think that's a bad tactical decision? I hesitated. Everything about this situation was wrong. If TRU had planted listening devices, and I had to assume they had, then they knew I'd found one. They'd know I'd reported it. They'd be watching to see how I played this. If I pushed too hard to protect Andrea, it would confirm suspicions. If I didn't push hard enough, he might walk into a trap that would eliminate him before I'd gathered the intelligence TRU wanted. It's risky, I finally said. But if the goal is to flush out the threat, it might work. Tony's expression told me he'd noticed my hesitation. He was cataloging every micro-expression, every word choice, every tell. The next 48 hours were tense. Isabella and Tony left for the safe house. Andrea and I stayed at his primary residence with a skeleton security team. We both knew we were being watched. The question was by whom and what their next move would be. Late the second night, I was doing a perimeter check when my secure phone buzzed. Another message from TRU. Situation escalating. Prepare for extraction and completion of primary objective. Timeline accelerated. Await further instructions. My hands were shaking as I read it. They were ordering me to move forward with killing Andrea. Soon. Maybe within days. I deleted the message and stood in the dark garden, my mind racing. For weeks ago, this would have been simple. Follow orders, complete the mission, trust that TRU knew what they were doing. But now, everything was different. Andrea wasn't the monster I'd been told about.
He was complicated, yes.
He operated outside the law, absolutely. But he was also honorable in his way, protective of the people he cared about, trying to navigate an impossible situation with some kind of moral code. And I was starting to realize that I didn't know who the real monsters were anymore. Everything okay out here? Andrea's voice came from behind me. I hadn't heard him approach, which was unusual. I was losing focus, getting emotionally compromised.
Fine.
Just being thorough. He moved to stand beside me, looking out at the dark garden. You've been distracted the last couple of days. Something on your mind? Just trying to figure out all the angles of this situation. Make sure we're not missing anything. Victoria, can I ask you something? And I want an honest answer. My heart rate spiked. Okay. Do you think I'm a good person? The question caught me completely off guard. What? It's a simple question. In your assessment, having spent a month watching me, working with me, seeing how I operate, do you think I'm a good person? I should have deflected. Should have given some professional non-answer about not being in a position to judge. Instead, I found myself answering honestly. I think you're trying to be good in a situation that doesn't make goodness easy. I think you have a code, and you stick to it even when it would be easier not to. I think you care about people, and try to protect them. Does that make you good? I don't know, but it makes you better than you could be. He was quiet for a long moment. That might be the most honest thing anyone said to me in years. Why did you ask? Because I'm trying to figure out if I can trust you. Really trust you. And I realized that I don't just need to know if you're competent or loyal. I need to know if you see me clearly. Not as some romantic outlaw figure, or as a monster, but as what I actually am. And what are you actually? Someone trying to do his best in an impossible situation. Someone who made choices that closed off certain paths and opened up others. Someone who wants to believe that what he's doing matters and makes things better, not worse. Standing there in the dark with Andrea Vitelli, I made a decision that would change everything. I decided that before I did anything else, before I followed TRU's orders or completed any mission, I needed to know the complete truth. About him, about TRU, about this whole situation. Because something was very wrong, and I was done being a weapon without understanding who I was really killing for. Andrea, I said slowly, if you really want to trust me, then I need you to tell me everything. About your organization, about your enemies, about what's really going on. No sanitized version, no protective secrecy. Everything. Because I can't protect you effectively if I'm operating with incomplete information. He studied my face in the darkness. That's a big ask. The kind of information that could destroy me if it fell into the wrong hands. I know. But you asked if you could trust me. This is what trust looks like. After a long moment, he nodded. Okay, let's go inside. I'll tell you everything. And then you can decide if you're still willing to stand by my side. We walked back to the house together, and I felt the weight of what was coming. In the next few hours, Andrea was going to give me everything TRU wanted. Complete intelligence on his operations, his vulnerabilities, his contacts. Everything I needed to complete my mission. The only problem was that I was no longer sure I wanted to complete it. And that realization terrified me more than any firefight ever had. Andrea's office felt different at 2 in the morning. The city lights filtered through the windows, casting long shadows across the bookshelves and desk. He poured 2 glasses of scotch and handed me one, then sat down across from me in one of the leather chairs near the window. Not behind his desk. This was going to be a conversation between equals, not a boss briefing an employee. Before I start, he said, I need you to understand something. What I'm about to tell you puts you in danger. Real danger. Not from me, but from people who would kill to keep certain things quiet. Once you know this, you can't unknow it. You'll be committed, whether you want to be or not. I understand. He took a sip of his scotch, gathering his thoughts. My father built his organization on 3 principles: loyalty, protection, and information. The first 2 are what people see. We're loyal to our people. We protect our territory and the civilians in it. But the third principle, information, that's what really kept us alive and powerful. My father understood that knowledge is the most valuable commodity in the world. What kind of information? Everything. My father had sources everywhere. Police departments, government agencies, rival organizations, legitimate businesses. He collected secrets like some people collect art. Not to use them maliciously, but as insurance, as leverage, as protection. When he died, I inherited all of it. Decades worth of carefully documented corruption, crimes, conspiracies. It's all locked away in a secure location that only 3 people know about. Me, Tony, and my lawyer, who has instructions to release everything if something happens to all of us. I felt my pulse quicken. This was bigger than TRU had briefed me. They'd said Andrea had information about weapons and terrorists. They had mentioned he was sitting on a trove of documented government corruption. Why are you telling me this? Because the attempts on my life aren't random. They started exactly 6 months ago, right after I discovered something in my father's files. Something that connects a lot of powerful people to activities they'd kill to keep hidden. He set down his glass and leaned forward. Victoria, my father documented a network of government officials, law enforcement, and private contractors who've been running illegal operations for at least 2 decades. Arms deals, drug trafficking, assassinations, regime changes. All of it sanctioned at high levels and hidden behind classified operations and black budgets. My mouth went dry. That's a serious accusation. It's a documented fact. I have names, dates, transactions, recordings. My father was meticulous. And here's the thing that made me start really digging. One of the organizations at the center of this network is called the Tactical Response Unit. Ever heard of it? I kept my expression neutral, through sheer force of will. Vaguely. Government counterterrorism, right? That's the public face. But according to my father's files, TRU has been involved in activities that have nothing to do with counterterrorism. Elimination of whistleblowers, protection of corrupt officials, facilitation of illegal arms deals. They operate with almost no oversight, and they've gotten very good at removing obstacles. Why would your father collect information on them? Because 15 years ago, TRU approached him. Wanted to use our distribution networks, our connections, our infrastructure for their operations. Promised protection and profit in exchange for cooperation.
My father refused.
Said he wouldn't be part of whatever they were doing. That's when he started really documenting everything, building a case, collecting evidence. I think he was planning to expose them eventually, but he died before he could. How did he die? I asked, though I had a terrible feeling I already knew the answer.
Gare accident.
Single vehicle, lost control on a mountain road, went off a cliff. Investigators said brake failure.
I always accepted that.
But 6 months ago, I found a maintenance record in his files. He'd had the brakes checked and replaced 2 days before the accident. Professional job, certified mechanic, Everything documented. The brakes shouldn't have failed. The room felt like it was tilting. You think TRU killed him? I think someone did. And TRU is the organization with the most to lose if his information went public. After I found all this, I started digging deeper, cross-referencing, following threads. That's when the attempts on my life started. 3 times in 6 months, Victoria. All professional, all coordinated, all the kind of operations that require resources and planning beyond what my normal enemies have access to. I stood and walked to the window, needing to move, needing to think. Everything Bishop had told me was a lie. The premise of my mission was a lie. Andrea wasn't a threat that needed elimination. He was a threat to TRU's operations. He had evidence that could expose them. And I'd been sent to kill him before he could use it. Why are you telling me this now? I asked, my voice barely steady. Because I need help. Tony's loyal and smart, but this is beyond his expertise. I need someone who thinks strategically, who can see patterns, who can help me figure out how to use this information without getting myself and everyone I care about killed. And because I think you're someone who cares about the truth. About justice. I've watched you these past weeks. You're not like most people in this business. You have a code. You operate by principles. The irony was devastating. He was praising my principles while I was actively betraying him. While I'd been sent to kill him by the very organization he was trying to expose. If what you're saying is true, I said carefully, then you're right. You're in serious danger. An organization like that won't stop until you're eliminated or the information is destroyed. I know. That's why I need to be smart about this. I can't just release everything publicly. Too many powerful people would be destroyed, and they'd find a way to discredit it or bury it. I need leverage. I need allies. I need a strategy that keeps me alive while ensuring the truth comes out. My phone buzzed in my pocket. Another message from TRU. I ignored it. Let me see the files, I said. If I'm going to help, I need to know exactly what we're dealing with. Andrea studied me for a long moment, then nodded. Okay, but not tonight. They're not here. Too dangerous to keep them in any location I'm regularly in. Tomorrow, I'll take you to where they're stored. You can review everything, and then we'll make a plan. We talked for another hour, going over details, discussing potential strategies, mapping out threats. The whole time, my mind was racing. TRU had sent me to eliminate Andrea because he had evidence of their corruption. Evidence that included documentation of illegal operations, assassinations, cover-ups. Evidence that might include information about my father. My father who died in a training accident. My father who was a senior official in TRU. My father who, according to what Andrea was telling me, would have had access to the same kind of information that got Andrea's father killed. When I finally left Andrea's house at 4 a.m, I drove to my apartment in a daze. My secure phone had 6 missed messages from TRU, all variations on the same theme. Status update required. Timeline critical. Prepare for final phase. I sat in my dark living room and opened my laptop. Started searching for information about my father's death. I'd been 18 when it happened, devastated, barely functional. I'd accepted what Bishop told me. Training accident. Tragic but honorable. Died serving his country. But now I started looking at it differently. Started asking questions I should have asked years ago. My father had been a senior official. Experienced. Careful. What kind of training accident kills someone with that much experience? I dug through old news reports, found the official TRU statement. Accidental discharge during a training exercise. Quick death.
No suffering.
I pulled up the death certificate I'd been given. Signed by a TRU medical examiner. No independent autopsy. No outside investigation because it happened on a secure TRU facility. Just like Andrea's father. A neat, contained death. Easy to explain. Impossible to verify. My hands were shaking as I closed the laptop. I needed to know the truth. About my father. About TRU. About everything. And the only way to get it was to see Andrea's files. To find out if my father was in there. If his death was documented as suspicious. If there was any evidence about what really happened. I couldn't complete my mission until I knew. And if what I suspected was true, then I couldn't complete my mission at all. Because TRU didn't deserve my loyalty. They deserved to be exposed and destroyed. The next morning, I met Andrea at a location outside the city. A storage facility that looked completely ordinary. Climate-controlled units, good security, nothing remarkable. He led me to a unit on the third floor, used 3 different keys to open it, and revealed a small office setup inside. File cabinets, a desk, a computer system with serious encryption. Everything's here, he said. Organized by category. Government corruption, law enforcement, private contractors, international operations. My father was thorough. Every claim is backed up by multiple sources. Documents, recordings, photographs, financial records. Where do I start? Wherever you want. I'm going to step out, make some calls, give you privacy to review. Take your time. When you're done, we'll talk about what comes next. After he left, I stood in the small room surrounded by decades of carefully collected secrets. I knew I should start with the files on current operations, on the threats Andrea was facing. That's what a good bodyguard would do. That's what someone committed to protecting him would prioritize. Instead, I went to the filing cabinet labeled Personnel and started looking for my father's name. It took 20 minutes to find it. A folder with his name, Richard Kane, Senior Official, Tactical Response Unit. And inside, a collection of documents that destroyed every lie I'd been told. My father had been investigating TRU. He'd discovered discrepancies in operational budgets, money being moved to untraceable accounts, missions that didn't match official reports. He'd started asking questions. He'd started documenting his findings. He'd planned to go to oversight committees, to blow the whistle on whatever was happening. And then he died. Accidental discharge during training. Except there was a witness statement in the file, someone who'd been there, someone who told Andrea's father that the training exercise wasn't on the official schedule, that my father had been called in alone, that the circumstances were suspicious. There was a photograph of the incident report. I stared at the signature at the bottom. Commander Bishop. The man who'd mentored me. The man who'd personally recruited me into TRU. The man who'd been so proud of me for following in my father's footsteps. The man who'd killed him. I don't know how long I stood there holding those papers. Long enough that Andrea came back. Long enough that he saw my face and understood immediately that something was catastrophically wrong.
Victoria?
What did you find? I handed him the folder, without speaking. He read through it quickly, his expression darkening. Your father worked for TRU. He was a senior official. They told me he died in a training accident. They lied. They killed him because he was asking questions. Because he was going to expose them. Just like they killed your father. Just like they're trying to kill you. Andrea set down the folder carefully. And they sent you. It wasn't a question. He'd figured it out. Maybe he'd suspected all along. Maybe Tony's paranoia had been right from the beginning. Yes, I said. There was no point lying now. I'm an operative. They sent me to infiltrate your organization, gather intelligence, and eliminate you. I was supposed to make it look like your enemies finally succeeded. Everything was planned. The night at the Sapphire Club, that was staged. I was supposed to save your life, so you'd trust me, hire me, let me close. And now I know the truth. They didn't send me to stop a criminal. They sent me to silence a witness. To eliminate someone who had evidence of their crimes. They murdered my father 8 years ago, and they've been using me ever since. Grooming me, training me, turning me into a weapon they could aim at anyone they wanted gone. I looked up at him, and I could feel tears threatening. I never cried. Not since my father died. But standing in that room, surrounded by evidence of betrayals upon betrayals, I felt something crack inside me. I'm sorry, I said. I'm so sorry. I came here to kill you. I've been reporting on you, documenting your movements, gathering intelligence. I've been helping them plan your murder. And you were the one telling the truth the whole time. Andrea was quiet for a long moment. Then he did something I didn't expect. He stepped forward and pulled me into a hug. Just held me while I tried not to fall apart completely. It's not your fault, he said quietly. They lied to you. They manipulated you. They used your grief and your desire to honor your father against you. That's what they do. That's what makes them dangerous. What do we do now? I asked when I could speak again. Now you decide.
You can walk away.
Disappear. Start over somewhere they can't find you. I have resources. I can make that happen. Or you can stay and help me fight them. Help me expose them for what they are. Help me make sure no one else's father gets murdered for asking questions. I pulled back and looked at him. If I stay, they'll send someone after me. Someone to eliminate a rogue operative. They have protocols for this. I know. But you're good, Victoria. Better than anyone I've ever seen. And you'll know how they think, how they operate. That gives us an advantage. Us. If you stay, we're in this together. I'm not your target anymore. I'm your partner. We take them down or we go down fighting. Those are the options. I thought about my father. About all the years I'd spent believing his death was an accident, believing TRU was honorable, believing I was serving justice. About how Bishop had looked me in the eye and lied to me over and over. About all the people I'd killed on TRU's orders, people who might have been innocent, might have been threats to their operations rather than threats to innocence. I'm staying, I said. I'm going to help you destroy them. But first, we need to secure Isabella and Tony. If TRU knows I've gone rogue, they'll go after everyone close to both of us. They'll use leverage, threaten people we care about. We need to move fast. Andrea nodded. Tony's already suspicious of you. This is going to confirm everything he was worried about. I know. But we don't have time to manage egos. We need to consolidate, fortify, and prepare. Because TRU is going to come at us with everything they have. And they're very good at what they do. We spent the next 3 hours reviewing files, making plans, identifying TRU's known operatives and assets. Andrea called Tony and told him to stay at the safe house with Isabella, that the situation had escalated and he'd explain when he could do so securely. My phone kept buzzing with messages from TRU. I finally answered one. Status update required immediately. I typed back. Situation compromised.
Target is aware.
Extracting and regrouping. The response came within seconds. Abort mission. Return to base for debriefing. Confirmed. I typed, then turned off the phone and removed the battery. They'll track the last location of that phone, I said. We have maybe 2 hours before they send a team. Then we need to move everything from this location. Get these files somewhere more secure. We worked quickly, efficiently, loading files into waterproof containers, copying digital files to encrypted drives. As we worked, I felt something shift inside me. For 8 years, I'd been following orders without question. I'd been a weapon, a tool, an instrument of someone else's will. But now I was making my own choices, deciding my own path. It was terrifying and liberating at the same time. Victoria, Andrea said as we loaded the last container into his car, I need to ask you something. And I need an honest answer. Okay. In all the time you've been gathering intelligence on me, in all your reports back to TRU, what did you tell them? Everything operational. Your schedule, your security protocols, your business meetings, your vulnerabilities. I gave them a complete profile. Enough information that they could plan a dozen different ways to eliminate you. Then they know about Isabella, about Tony, about everyone close to me. Yes.
His jaw tightened.
Then we're not just protecting ourselves. We're protecting everyone in my organization. Everyone I care about. TRU won't hesitate to kill innocent people if it helps them get to me. I know, Andrea, I know I don't have any right to ask this, but I need you to trust me now. Really trust me. I know I've betrayed that trust in every possible way. But from this moment forward, I'm committed. To you, to this fight, to making this right. He looked at me across the roof of the car. The early morning sun was rising, casting golden light across the parking lot. I do trust you. Maybe I shouldn't, but I do. I think you're someone who is used by evil people for evil purposes. That doesn't make you evil. It makes you a victim. And now you have a chance to be something else. To be someone who fights back. We drove to a new location, a property Andrea owned under a shell corporation that wasn't in any of the files I'd reported to TRU. secured everything, then called Tony on a burner phone to arrange a meeting. Tony arrived 3 hours later with Isabella. The moment he saw me, his hand went to his weapon. "I told you," he said to Andrea. "I told you she couldn't be trusted." "What the hell is she doing here?" "She's here because she's on our side now," Andrea said calmly. "Sit down. Both of you. We have a lot to explain, and not much time." Andrea laid it all out. TRU, the files, my mission, my father's death, everything. Isabella looked horrified. Tony looked vindicated, but also furious. "So, she was sent to kill you, and we're just supposed to believe she's changed sides?" Tony demanded. "This could be part of their plan. Gain deeper access, get close to all of us, then strike." "It's not," I said quietly. "But I understand why you don't believe me. I wouldn't believe me either. All I can say is that I thought I was serving justice. I thought I was eliminating a criminal who deserved it. I was wrong. TRU murdered my father, and they've been using me ever since. They're the criminals, and I'm going to help bring them down or die trying." "How do we know that's true?"
Tony asked.
"How do we know your father actually worked for TRU? How do we know any of this isn't just an elaborate cover story?" I pulled out my phone, the one I'd taken the battery out of earlier, and turned it on. Within 30 seconds, it started buzzing with messages.
Urgent.
Threatening. Demanding I return immediately or face consequences. "They're looking for me," I said. "I'm a rogue operative now. That means they'll send someone to eliminate me. Someone very specific."
Who?
Andrea asked. "There's an operative. Code name Reaper. He's only deployed when someone goes rogue, when a trained operative becomes a threat. He's the best they have. Undefeated record. 37 eliminations. All successful. If TRU has decided I'm a threat, Reaper will be coming." "How good is he?"
Tony asked.
"Better than me. I've seen his file. He's faster, stronger, more experienced. He doesn't hesitate, doesn't have moral conflicts, doesn't make mistakes. If he's coming, we need to be ready." Isabella had been quiet, processing everything. Now she spoke up. "So, what's the plan? We can't just hide forever. If this TRU organization is as powerful as you say, they'll find us eventually." "The plan is we go public," Andrea said. "We release the files, expose everything, make it impossible for them to operate in the shadows anymore. But we need to do it strategically. We need media contacts we can trust, lawyers who can't be bought off, protection for witnesses. We need to build a case so airtight that even powerful people can't make it go away."
"That'll take time," I said.
"Time we might not have. The moment TRU realizes what we're planning, they'll accelerate their response. They'll kill anyone who knows anything, destroy evidence, create cover stories. We need to move fast, but we also need to be smart." "Then we split up," Tony said. "Multiple targets are harder to hit than one. Andrea and Victoria work on organizing the evidence and making contact with trustworthy journalists and lawyers. Isabella and I go to ground, stay mobile, stay unpredictable. We stay in touch through burner phones, and we move the moment anything feels wrong."
It was a solid plan.
The only plan that made sense given the circumstances. But it meant separating, and separation meant vulnerability. TRU would exploit any weakness they could find. We spent the rest of the day preparing, copying files, establishing secure communication protocols, arranging backup plans, and emergency exits. As the sun started to set, Tony pulled me aside. "I don't trust you," he said bluntly. "I want that to be very clear. But Andrea does, and I trust his judgment more than I trust my suspicions. So, I'm going to give you one chance."
One.
"You protect him. You keep him alive.
You help him win this fight.
If you betray him, if you hurt him, if you're playing some long game that ends with him dead, I will find you. I don't care how good you are. I will find you, and I will make you suffer before you die. Understood?" "Understood. And Tony, I'm sorry. For lying, for the deception, for putting all of you in danger. I can't undo what I've done, but I can try to make it right. Don't apologize. Just do the work. Prove through actions, not words." That night, after Tony and Isabella left for their secure location, Andrea and I were alone in the safe house. The weight of everything that had happened was crushing. In less than 24 hours, my entire understanding of reality had been shattered and rebuilt. "You should get some rest," Andrea said. "Tomorrow's going to be intense." "I don't think I can sleep. Too much adrenaline, too much to process." "I know the feeling." He poured 2 glasses of whiskey and handed me one. We sat in the living room, the house dark except for one lamp. "Can I ask you something?" I said after a while. "Anything." "Why do you trust me?" "Really?" "You have every reason not to. I came here to kill you. I've been lying to you for weeks. I've compromised your security and put everyone you care about in danger. Why aren't you treating me like the threat I am?" Andrea was quiet for a long moment, considering his words. "Because I've spent my entire adult life learning to read people, to understand motivations, to see past what someone says to what they actually believe. And from the first moment I met you, I saw someone who believed they were doing the right thing. Someone who had principles and tried to live by them."
You weren't lying about that.
"You were just wrong about who the villains were." "That's a lot of faith to put in someone who is actively planning your murder." "Maybe. But I've also seen how you reacted when you found out the truth. You didn't try to justify it or rationalize it or find some middle ground. You immediately committed to making it right. That tells me something about your character, about who you really are underneath the lies you were told." I looked at him in the dim lamplight. This man who was supposed to be a criminal, a monster, someone the world would be better off without. This man who was actually principled and thoughtful and trying to do the right thing in impossible circumstances. "I'm going to keep you alive," I said. "Whatever it takes. I'm going to protect you and help you win this fight. I owe you that. I owe my father that." "We're going to keep each other alive," Andrea corrected.
This is a partnership now.
"We're in this together." He was right. Everything had changed. I wasn't an operative following orders anymore. I wasn't a weapon being aimed by someone else. I was a person making choices, fighting for something I believed in, standing with someone who I respected. It was terrifying and exhilarating and felt more right than anything had felt in 8 years. Tomorrow, the real fight would begin. TRU would be mobilizing, planning, strategizing how to eliminate 2 threats who knew too much. Reaper would be coming. We'd be hunted, targeted, fighting for our lives against one of the most powerful covert organizations in the country. But tonight, sitting in a safe house with a man I'd been sent to kill and had instead chosen to stand beside, I felt something I hadn't felt since my father died. I felt like I was finally on the right side. The next morning started with a phone call that changed everything. Andrea's burner phone rang at 6 a.m. He answered, listened for 30 seconds, and his expression went dark. "When?" he asked. How many casualties?" I sat up from where I'd been, attempting to sleep on the couch, instantly alert. "Understood. Stay there. Don't move until I give you the all clear." He hung up and looked at me. "One of my warehouses was hit last night. Professional job. 3 guards dead. They were looking for something specific." "The files?" That's what they wanted us to think. But the files were never there. This was a message. TRU is showing us what they're capable of. Showing us that they can reach into my organization whenever they want. My phone, the new burner I'd gotten yesterday, buzzed. "Unknown number." I answered cautiously.
Victoria Kane.
The voice was familiar. "Commander Bishop. I think we need to talk. I don't have anything to say to you. Don't hang up. Just listen. You've made a mistake. I understand. Andrea Vitelli is a persuasive man, and he's clearly convinced you that we're the villains here. But you're seeing a very curated version of reality. He's shown you selected documents, told you a compelling story, and you've bought into it because you're emotional about your father's death. My father, who you murdered. Your father, who died in a tragic accident. Victoria, I know you're grieving. I know you want answers. But this isn't the way. Vitelli is using you. He's manipulating your emotions to turn you against the organization that's been your family for 8 years. You're lying. I've seen the evidence. The witness statements. The suspicious circumstances. You killed him because he was going to expose TRU's illegal operations. Bishop sighed. Is that what Vitelli told you? Think about it, Victoria. Why would a crime boss have detailed files on your father's death? Why would he conveniently have evidence that confirms exactly what you'd want to believe? He's playing you, creating a narrative that makes you see him as an ally and us as enemies. It's textbook manipulation. I felt a flicker of doubt. Not because I believed Bishop, but because he was good. He was planting seeds of uncertainty, making me question my own judgment. This was what TRU trained us to do. Create cognitive dissonance. Exploit emotional vulnerabilities. Make targets doubt their own perceptions. I'm not coming back, I said firmly. I'm not asking you to. Not yet. I'm asking you to think. To use that brilliant tactical mind of yours. You've been with Vitelli for weeks now. You've seen his operation. Does he really seem like someone who collects evidence of government corruption out of civic duty? Or does it seem more likely that he's an organized crime boss who uses information as leverage and power? This conversation is over. One more thing. We're sending Reaper. You know what that means. You trained with him. You know he won't stop until the job is complete. But Victoria, it doesn't have to be you. If you walk away now, if you disappear and let us handle Vitelli, we'll consider your debt paid. You can start over. New identity, new life, no consequences. But if you stand with him, if you fight us, then you become a target. And Reaper doesn't miss. Send him. I'm ready. No, you're not. Nobody's ever ready for Reaper. Ask yourself if Andrea Vitelli is really worth dying for. He hung up. I sat there staring at the phone, my mind racing. Andrea had been listening. What did he say? I relayed the conversation. Andrea listened without interrupting, his expression thoughtful. He's good, Andrea said when I finished. That's classic psychological manipulation. Create doubt, offer an easy way out, threaten consequences. He's trying to split us apart before Reaper arrives. I know. But Andrea, he's right about one thing. Reaper is coming, and I'm not ready to face him. Nobody is. We need a different strategy than just waiting for him to find us. What do you suggest? We need to force TRU's hand. Make them move before they're ready. Right now they're planning, organizing, bringing assets into position. They're treating this like a careful operation because they think they have time. We need to take that time away from them.
How?
We release some of the files. Not everything, but enough to cause problems. Enough to make them scramble. When organizations scramble, they make mistakes. And mistakes create opportunities. Andrea considered this. It's risky. Once we start releasing information, there's no taking it back. We lose our leverage. We're going to lose our leverage anyway if we're dead. At least this way we control the timing. We choose what gets released and when. We shape the narrative instead of reacting to theirs. He stood and walked to the window, thinking. I watched him process, seeing the calculations happening behind his eyes. This was the Andrea Vitelli that made him dangerous to people like TRU. Not the violence or the criminal connections, but the intelligence. The ability to see several moves ahead. Okay, he said finally. We'll do it your way. But we need to be strategic. We release information about low-level corruption first. City officials, local law enforcement, things that are explosive but don't directly threaten TRU's core operations. That gives us credibility, shows we have real evidence, but doesn't immediately make us TRU's #1 priority. And while they're dealing with that fallout, we use the chaos as cover. We move the remaining files, secure our witnesses, build our case. By the time they realize what we're actually doing, it'll be too late to stop it. We spent the next several hours selecting files, redacting sensitive information that could put innocent people at risk, and preparing our first release. Andrea had contacts with investigative journalists who'd been trying to expose corruption for years. People who couldn't be bought or intimidated. People who would run with the story because it was the truth, not because it served an agenda. At noon, we made the first release. Documents showing a city councilman taking bribes, a police captain falsifying evidence, a judge throwing cases in exchange for money. All carefully documented. All irrefutable. Within 3 hours, the The story was everywhere. Local news, then national. The documents were being authenticated by experts. People were being arrested. The city was in an uproar. And TRU would be watching, trying to figure out what our end game was. My new burner phone rang. "Tony, did you just do what I think you did?" he asked. "We released some files. Limited scope, nothing that directly threatens TRU yet. We're testing the waters." "You're poking the bear. You know that, right? You're making them desperate, and desperate people do desperate things." "That's the point. We need them off balance." "Where's Andrea?" "Right here. We're secure."
For now.
"Look, I've been asking around, calling in favors, trying to get intelligence on what TRU is planning. Word is they've mobilized a full tactical team. Not just Reaper. A whole unit. They're treating this like a major operation." I felt cold. "How many people?" "At least 12. Maybe more. They're bringing in assets from different regions, people who don't know you, people you won't recognize. And they're not just coming after you and Andrea. They're putting pressure on his entire organization. Audits, investigations, raids. They're trying to dismantle everything at once." "Where are you and Isabella?" "Moving every 6 hours. Different locations, different vehicles. So far we're clean, but I know it won't last. These people are good, Victoria. You know how good. We need a real plan, not just chaos and hope." "We're working on it. Stay mobile. Check in every 12 hours. If you miss a check-in, we assume you're compromised and we activate emergency protocols." After Tony hung up, Andrea and I looked at each other. The reality of what we were facing was becoming clearer. Thierry wasn't just sending one operative. They were mobilizing resources for a full-scale operation. They were going to come at us from every angle. "We need help," I said. "We can't do this alone. We need allies. People with resources and skills who have as much reason to hate TRU as we do." "I might know some people," Andrea said carefully. "But they're not exactly law-abiding citizens. Former intelligence officers who got burned by their agencies. Hackers who've been targeted by government operations. Whistleblowers who barely survived trying to expose corruption. None of them are saints. Neither are we at this point. Can you trust them?" "As much as I can trust anyone. They have their own reasons for wanting to see organizations like TRU destroyed. Enemy of my enemy and all that." "Then reach out. We need technical support, intelligence gathering, people who can watch our backs while we focus on the main objective." Andrea made calls while I continued organizing files and planning our next moves. I kept thinking about what Bishop had said. About Reaper. About how nobody was ready to face him.
He was right about that.
Reaper was the best operative TRU had ever produced. I'd seen him train once, years ago. Watched him take down 4 armed opponents in under 10 seconds. Watched him solve complex tactical problems like he was reading a children's book. He was faster than me, stronger than me, more experienced than me. If it came down to a direct confrontation, I'd lose. So, I couldn't let it come down to that. I needed to think differently. Use his strengths against him. Reaper was perfect at direct engagement. So, I'd make sure every engagement was indirect. Ambiguous. Full of variables he couldn't control. By evening, Andrea had assembled a small team. 5 people. All with specialized skills. There was Chen, a former NSA analyst who'd been forced out for refusing to participate in illegal surveillance. There was Dmitry, an ex-Spetsnaz operator who defected after being ordered to kill civilians. There was Sarah, a journalist who'd nearly been killed for investigating CIA black sites. There was James, a lawyer who specialized in defending whistleblowers and knew how to navigate the legal system. And there was Alex, a hacker who'd been on the run from government agencies for 3 years. They met us at a new safe house, this one outside the city in a rural area with good sight lines and limited access points. Everyone was cautious, suspicious, feeling each other out. "Let me be clear about what we're doing here," Andrea said once everyone was assembled. "We're going up against one of the most powerful covert organizations in the country. They have unlimited resources, legal immunity, and they're very good at making problems disappear. Most of you have experienced that firsthand. So, I need to know right now if you're committed. Because once we start this, there's no backing out." We win or we die. Those are the only options. What's the objective?
Chen asked.
Specifically, are we trying to expose them? Destroy them? Just survive? All three, I said. We expose their illegal operations, we destroy their ability to operate in the shadows, and we survive to testify about what we know. We're going to take them apart piece by piece. With what evidence? Sarah asked. I've tried to expose government corruption before. They're very good at discrediting sources, burying documents, creating plausible deniability. Andrea gestured to the containers of files. With 30 years of documented evidence. Names, dates, operations, financial records, recordings. Everything we need to prove that TRU has been operating as a criminal organization while pretending to fight crime. James, the lawyer, stepped forward and started reviewing files. His eyes widened as he read. This is incredible. This is ironclad. If even half of this holds up to legal scrutiny, it would bring down dozens of high-level officials. Maybe hundreds. It's all real, I said. Andrea's father spent decades collecting it. Cross-referenced, verified, backed up by multiple sources. We're not working with rumors or theories. We're working with facts. Then why hasn't anyone released this before? Dmitri asked, his accent thick. If evidence this good, why is TRU still operating? Because the people who had it kept dying, Andrea said bluntly. My father, Victoria's father, probably others. TRU is very good at eliminating threats before they become public. That's their specialty. That's what they do. So, what makes you think we'll succeed where others failed? Alex asked. Because we're not alone, I said. Because we have skills and resources they don't expect. Because we're going to be smart and strategic instead of just brave. And because we don't have a choice. TRU is coming for all of us. We can fight together or die separately. The room was quiet as everyone processed this. Finally, Sarah spoke up. I'm in. I've been wanting to expose these people for 5 years. If you've got real evidence, I'll make sure the whole world sees it. I can help with legal strategy, James said. Make sure everything we release is protected speech. Make sure we have legal cover for our actions. It won't stop them from trying to kill us, but at least we'll be on solid legal ground. One by one, the others committed. Chun would handle intelligence and cybersecurity. Dmitri would handle physical security and tactical planning. Alex would handle digital distribution and making sure our evidence couldn't be deleted or suppressed. We worked through the night, each person contributing their expertise. Chun set up secure communication networks that would be nearly impossible for TRU to intercept. Dmitri surveyed the safe house and identified defensive positions and escape routes. Sarah started crafting the narrative for how we'd release information to maximize impact. James began preparing legal documents. Alex created redundant backups of all the files and distributed them to secure servers around the world. At 3 a.m., I stepped outside for air. The night was cool and quiet, stars visible away from the city lights. I heard footsteps behind me. Andrea. Can't sleep? He asked. Too much to think about. Too many moving parts. Too many ways this could go wrong. We're doing the right thing. I know, but that doesn't guarantee we'll win. History is full of people who did the right thing and died for it. Andrea moved to stand beside me, both of us looking out at the dark landscape. Can I tell you something? When I took over my family's organization, I was terrified. I had no idea what I was doing. I just knew I had to protect Isabella and honor my father's memory. Every day I was sure I was going to make a mistake that would get people killed. But Tony told me something that helped. He said the difference between good leaders and bad leaders isn't that good leaders don't make mistakes. It's that good leaders keep moving forward even when they're scared. Keep making decisions even when they're not sure. Keep fighting even when the odds are against them. Your point being? My point being that you're scared right now. I can see it. And that's okay. Being scared means you understand the stakes. But don't let the fear paralyze you. We've got a good team, a solid plan, and evidence that can actually change things. That's more than most people fighting this kind of fight ever have. I turned to look at him. In the starlight, His face was partially shadowed, but I could see the determination in his eyes. This man who'd been forced into a life he never wanted, who'd made the best of impossible circumstances, who'd kept his integrity despite everything. Bishop had asked if Andrea was worth dying for. Standing there, I realized the answer was yes. Not because he was perfect, but because he was fighting for something that mattered. "Thank you," I said quietly. "For what?" "For trusting me. For giving me a chance to make this right. For being exactly who you are." Something shifted in the air between us. A moment of recognition, of connection. We'd been through so much in such a short time. Shared danger, shared purpose, shared determination to fight against impossible odds. It created a bond that went beyond professional respect. Andrea reached out and touched my face gently. "Victoria, I need you to know something. Whatever happens, however this ends, I'm glad you came into my life. Even if you were sent to kill me. Even if everything about how we met was a lie. The person you've become since then, the person fighting beside me now, that's real. And I'm grateful for it." I felt something break open inside me. Some wall I'd built after my father died, some protective barrier that kept me from feeling too much, from caring too deeply. It crumbled, and I found myself leaning into Andrea's touch, found myself wanting this connection, this moment of honesty and vulnerability in the middle of chaos. He leaned in slowly, giving me time to pull away if I wanted. I didn't want to. When his lips met mine, it felt like coming home after years of being lost. The kiss was gentle at first, then deeper, more urgent. All the tension and fear and adrenaline of the past days channeling into this moment of human connection. When we finally pulled apart, we were both breathing hard. "That was probably a terrible tactical decision," I said. "Probably the best decision I've made in weeks," Andrea replied. We stood there in the darkness, holding each other, knowing that tomorrow would bring more danger, more challenges, more impossible odds. But for this moment, we had each other. We had purpose. We had hope. Inside the safe house, Chen called out, "We've got movement." Multiple vehicles approaching from the east. At least 4 cars, professional formation. This could be TRU. The moment shattered. We ran inside, instantly back in tactical mode. Everyone moved to their positions. Dmitri was already at a window with night vision binoculars. "Definitely professional," he said. "Military-style approach, coordinated movement. They'll be here in 3 minutes." "How did they find us?" Alex demanded. "The security on this location was solid." "Doesn't matter how," I said. "We need to move.
Now.
Grab the essential files and equipment. We've got 90 seconds before they're in position to lock down the area." We moved fast, grabbing what we needed, destroying what we couldn't carry. Andrea and I covered the exits while the others loaded vehicles. My mind was racing through possibilities. If TRU had found us this quickly, they had better intelligence than I'd thought. Or they had help from someone on the inside. "Everyone out," Andrea ordered. 2 vehicles split up, different routes. "Meet at the backup location in 3 hours. If anyone doesn't make it, assume they're compromised and activate Protocol 7. We split up. Andrea, Dmitri, and I in one vehicle. Chen, Sarah, James, and Alex in the other. As we pulled away from the safe house, I saw headlights approaching from multiple directions. They'd come in force, planning to surround us, trap us. But we'd gotten out just in time.
Barely.
"They're getting too good at finding us," Andrea said as he drove fast down back roads. "We need to figure out how they're tracking us." "Could be a dozen different methods," I said. "Satellite surveillance, traffic cameras, financial tracking, informants. TRU has access to everything." Then we go dark. Completely dark. No digital footprint, no predictable patterns, nothing they can trace. For the next 3 hours, we drove through rural areas, changing vehicles twice, taking routes that avoided cameras and main roads. By the time we reached the backup location, an abandoned farm property that Andrea owned through a series of shell companies that even TRU wouldn't be able to trace quickly, we were all exhausted. The others arrived 20 minutes after us. Everyone had made it. For now, we were safe. But as I helped unload equipment and set up our new temporary base, I couldn't shake the feeling that we were running out of time. Thierry was closing in. Reaper was coming. And sooner or later, we'd run out of places to hide. We needed to stop playing defense and start playing offense. We needed to hit TRU where it hurt, force them to react to us instead of constantly reacting to them. And I was starting to form a plan for how to do exactly that. A dangerous plan. A plan that would put me directly in harm's way. But a plan that might actually work. I just had to convince Andrea to let me do it. The abandoned farm became our operations center. We worked in shifts, someone always on watch, everyone else cycling through planning, research, and brief attempts at sleep. 3 days after the near miss at the previous safe house, we released our second batch of files. This time, we included information about federal officials. A senator taking bribes, an FBI agent falsifying reports, a federal judge throwing cases. Still nothing that directly implicated TRU, but getting closer. The media went into a frenzy. Congressional hearings were called. People were resigning. The public was demanding answers. And Thierry was getting nervous. I could feel it in the way their movements became more aggressive, more desperate. They raided 2 more of Andrea's properties. They picked up 3 of his associates for questioning. They were applying pressure everywhere, trying to flush us out. On the 4th night, I was reviewing files when I found something that made my blood run cold. A document dated 3 months ago. An internal TRU memo about operational concerns. And there, buried in the middle of routine business, was a name I recognized. Tony Soprano. The memo detailed an approach made to Tony. An offer of money and immunity in exchange for information about Andrea's activities. According to the memo, Tony had refused. But there was a follow-up note, dated 2 months ago, that said the approach had been renewed with additional incentives and that the subject was reconsidering. I read it 3 times, hoping I was misunderstanding. But the implications were clear. Thierry had been trying to flip Tony. And, according to this document, they might have succeeded. I found Andrea alone in what had been the farmhouse's living room, reviewing security footage from cameras Dimitri had placed around the property perimeter. "We need to talk," I said quietly. "Alone." He looked up, saw my expression, and immediately stood. We walked outside, far enough from the house that no one could overhear. "What is it?" I handed him the document. Watched his face as he read it. Watched the realization hit him like a physical blow.
"No," he said.
"Not Tony. He's been with me for 12 years. He's family. There has to be another explanation. Andrea, I know this is hard.
But think about it.
How did Thierry find our safe house so quickly? How are they always one step ahead? Someone's feeding them information. It could be anyone. Could be surveillance we haven't detected. Could be traffic cameras or satellite tracking. It could be. But this document suggests they specifically targeted Tony. And he's been acting strange lately. More paranoid than usual. Asking detailed questions about our plans and locations. Andrea's jaw tightened. He didn't want to believe it. I understood. Tony was his oldest friend, his most trusted advisor. The idea that he'd betray Andrea was almost incomprehensible. "We need to test it," Andrea said finally. "Feed him false information and see if Thierry acts on it. If he's clean, nothing happens. If he's compromised, we'll know. And if he's compromised, what then? Then we deal with it. But carefully. If Thierry thinks we suspect him, they'll extract him or have him killed to tie up loose ends. We need to use this to our advantage." We spent the next hour crafting a plan. We'd tell Tony, and only Tony, that we'd moved the primary files to a specific location. A storage unit in the city, heavily secured but accessible if someone knew where to look. If Thierry raided that location, we'd know Tony had told them. The next morning, Andrea called Tony on a burner phone. "We need to consolidate. Too many moving pieces, too much risk. I'm moving the primary files to a secure location in the city. Storage facility on Riverside and 8th, Unit 247. Only you and Victoria know about it." I watched Andrea's face as he listened to Tony's response. Saw the pain there, the hope that his friend was still loyal mixed with the growing certainty that he wasn't. "Stay where you are with Isabella," Andrea continued. Keep her safe. We'll handle the consolidation and let you know when it's complete. Check in tomorrow at noon. After he hung up, we waited. If Tony was clean, nothing would happen. If he was feeding information to TRU, they'd move fast. They'd want those files destroyed before we could release more damaging information. 6 hours later, Dmitry called from his observation position near the storage facility. We've got activity. For vehicles, 12 operatives, military-style breach. They're hitting the storage unit now. Andrea closed his eyes, and I saw something break inside him. The confirmation of betrayal from someone he'd trusted completely. Pull back, Andrea said into the phone. Don't engage. Just document everything and get out of there. After Dmitry confirmed he was clear, Andrea sat down heavily. The weight of everything seemed to crash down on him at once. 12 years, he said quietly. 12 years of loyalty, of brotherhood, of trust. How could he do this? TRU is good at finding pressure points. Maybe they threatened Isabella. Maybe they offered something he couldn't refuse. Maybe they convinced him it was the right thing to do. That doesn't make it better. That makes it worse.
He should have come to me.
We could have figured it out together. Instead, he sold me out to the people trying to kill us. I sat beside him, not sure what to say. I'd been betrayed by TRU, by the organization I'd dedicated my life to. But I'd never had someone I'd known for 12 years, someone I considered family, turn against me. I couldn't imagine that pain. What do we do about Isabella? I asked. If Tony's compromised, she might be in danger. We extract her. Tonight. Without telling Tony. Andrea stood, his expression hardening. He was pushing the emotion aside, focusing on what needed to be done. Chen, can you trace Tony's location through his phone? Chen looked up from his laptop. Already on it. He's at a motel outside the city. Room 147. Isabella's phone is showing the same location. Dmitry, I need you to scout it. Full tactical assessment. I want to know how many exits, what the security situation is, whether TRU has anyone watching. On it. While Dmitry was gone, we prepared. If Tony realized we knew about his betrayal, he might panic. Might call TRU for extraction. Might do something that would put Isabella in danger. We needed to move carefully. Dmitry returned 2 hours later. The motel is a standard 2-story structure. Room 147 is on the ground floor, 2 windows, 1 door. I don't see obvious surveillance, but that doesn't mean it's not there. Tony's car is in the parking lot. I saw Isabella through the window. She appears unharmed, but she looks upset, like she's been crying. Could Tony have told her? Andrea asked. About his deal with TRU? Or she could have figured it out, I said. Isabella's smart. If Tony's been acting strange, making suspicious calls, she might have put it together. We go in quiet, Andrea decided. Victoria and I will approach the room. Dmitry, you cover the exits. If Tony tries to run or call for backup, stop him. Non-lethal if possible, but priority is getting Isabella out safely. We drove to the motel in silence. Andrea's pain was palpable. I reached over and took his hand. He squeezed it gratefully, but didn't speak. There was nothing to say that would make this better. The motel was exactly as Dmitry described. Rundown, anonymous, the kind of place people went when they didn't want to be found. We parked 2 blocks away and approached on foot. Dmitry took position covering the back exit. Andrea and I moved to the door of room 147. Andrea knocked. Tony, it's me. Open up. Silence. Then footsteps. The door opened and Tony stood there, and I saw immediately that he knew we knew. His hand moved toward his weapon, but I was faster, my gun already drawn and aimed. Don't, I said quietly. Please don't make this worse. Tony froze, his hand on his weapon but not drawing it. Behind him, Isabella appeared in the doorway to the bathroom. Her eyes were red from crying. She looked at Andrea with an expression of such relief and sadness. Andrea, I tried to tell you, she said. I tried to warn you, but he wouldn't let me use my phone. He said it was for my safety, but I knew something was wrong. Isabella, come here, Andrea said, his voice gentle despite the tension. Come to me.
Now.
She moved quickly, slipping past Tony and into Andrea's arms. He held her protectively while keeping his eyes locked on Tony. "How much did they pay you?" Andrea asked, his voice flat. "What was I worth?" "It's not about money," Tony said. "It's about survival. TRU promised immunity for both of us. They promised to leave Isabella alone. They said if I cooperated, if I helped them get what they needed, we'd all walk away alive. But if I didn't, they'd kill everyone I care about, including you. So, you decided to help them kill me first? I decided to try to keep everyone alive. You don't understand what they're capable of. They have resources we can't match. Power we can't fight. This crusade you're on, it's suicide. I was trying to save you from yourself. By betraying me to the people who murdered both our fathers?" Andrea's voice was rising now, anger breaking through. "By feeding them our locations, our plans, our movements? How many people died because of information you gave them, Tony? How many of our people?" Tony's face crumbled. "I didn't want this. I tried to convince them to just let you walk away. To let us all walk away. But they wouldn't. They said you were too dangerous, that the information you had was too damaging. They said the only way any of us survived was if I helped them find you. And you believed them? You really thought they'd let any of us live after you gave them what they wanted? They would have killed all of us, Tony. Including Isabella. Including you. That's what they do. That's who they are." "I know that now," Tony said quietly. "Isabella figured it out. Made me see what I'd done. Made me realize I destroyed everything trying to save it."
"I'm sorry, Andrea."
"I'm so sorry." There was a long, tense silence. I kept my weapon trained on Tony, ready to act if he made any aggressive move. But he just stood there, looking broken and defeated. "You need to come with us," Andrea said finally. "You need to tell us everything you told them. Every detail. And then we need to use it against them. They'll kill me. The moment they realize I flipped back. They're going to kill you anyway. Your only chance is to help us destroy them first." Tony looked at Isabella, at Andrea, at me. I saw him calculating, weighing options, trying to find some path forward that didn't end with everyone dead. "There's something else," Tony said. "Something I found out. The operative they sent, Reaper? He's already here. He arrived 2 days ago. He's been tracking you, learning your patterns, waiting for the right moment. Thierry wanted me to set up a meeting, get you to a location where Reaper could take you out cleanly. That's why I've been asking about your schedule, your movements." My blood ran cold. Reaper was here. Already hunting us. Already close. "Where is he?" I demanded. "I don't know. They don't tell me that. But they're planning to move soon. Within the next 24 hours. They want this finished." Andrea looked at me. I could see him thinking, calculating, making decisions. We were out of time. We needed to move fast, make our final play before Thierry could act. "Everyone back to the farm," Andrea said. "Tony, you're going to tell us everything. Every conversation, every piece of information you gave them, every detail of their plan. And then we're going to turn it all against them." We drove back in tense silence. Tony sat in the back with Isabella, who wouldn't look at him. The betrayal had hurt her too, shattered her faith in someone she'd trusted as family. At the farm, we assembled everyone. Andrea explained the situation bluntly. Tony had been feeding information to TRU. They'd used that information to track us, to plan attacks, to stay one step ahead. But now Tony was going to help us turn that advantage around. "Everything I told them," Tony said to the assembled group, "I'll tell you. Every location I mentioned, every plan I revealed, every weakness I exposed. We can use their knowledge against them. Set traps where they expect to find us. Feed them false information through channels they think are secure. Make them believe they're in control when really we're leading them exactly where we want them." "And Reaper?" I asked. "What do you know about his plans?" "Only that he's here, and he's close. They wanted me to arrange a meeting between you and me, Victoria. Said you'd trust me enough to meet alone. That's when Reaper was supposed to take you out. After that, they'd use your death to draw Andrea into the open and eliminate him. So we used that," I said, "an idea forming. We set up the meeting. But we control the variables. We make it a trap for Reaper instead of a trap for me. That's suicide, Dimitri said. You've said yourself that Reaper is better than you. Faster, stronger, more experienced. You face him head-on, you die. Not head-on. On my terms. In an environment I control with backup I trust. Reaper's advantage is that he's perfect in direct combat. So we make it indirect. Asymmetric. We use his perfection against him. Andrea shook his head. It's too dangerous. We can't risk losing you. We don't have a choice. As long as Reaper is hunting us, we're always looking over our shoulders. We need to eliminate him or turn him, and the only way to do that is to engage. But I need everyone's help. This only works if we're all committed. The group looked at each other, weighing the risks. Finally, one by one, they nodded. We were committed. We'd come too far to back down now. We spent the next 12 hours planning. Every detail, every contingency, every possible outcome. Tony provided information about TRU's communication protocols, their operational procedures, their expectations. We used that to craft a scenario that would draw Reaper in while giving us every possible advantage. The meeting would happen at an abandoned warehouse. Multiple levels, lots of cover, controllable variables. Tony would contact TRU, tell them he'd convince me to meet him there to discuss what we'd learned about the betrayal. TRU would send Reaper, and we'd be ready. As night fell, and we prepared to move into position, Andrea pulled me aside. I don't like this plan, he said. Too many things can go wrong. Every plan has risks. This one at least gives us a fighting chance. Victoria, if something happens to you, he trailed off, unable to finish the sentence. It won't. I'm going to be smart, careful, and I'm going to have the best team backing me up. We're going to win this. Promise me something. If it goes wrong, if Reaper is about to take you out, you run. You don't try to be a hero. You get out and you survive. I promise the same thing you promise. That we both survive this. That we both make it to the other side. Deal? He pulled me close, kissed me hard.
Deal.
Now, let's go kill the boogeyman. The warehouse loomed in the darkness, like a monument to decay. 3 stories of rusted metal and broken windows, surrounded by empty lots and abandoned buildings. Perfect territory for an ambush. The question was who would be ambushing whom. We'd arrived 6 hours early. Dimitri, Chun, and Sarah were positioned at strategic points with clear sight lines. Alex had set up electronic countermeasures to block TRU's communications and track any signals. James was in a vehicle 3 blocks away with all the critical files, ready to release everything if this went wrong. Andrea was on the 2nd floor with a sniper rifle, covering the main approach. And I was on the ground floor, alone, waiting for Reaper to come. Tony had made the call 2 hours ago. Told his TRU handler that I'd agreed to meet him, that I wanted to understand why he'd betrayed us, that I was emotional and vulnerable. Everything they'd want to hear. Everything that would make them send Reaper confident this was a clean kill. My phone buzzed. A text from Andrea. Movement. Single individual approaching from the east. Advanced tactical movement. This is him. I steadied my breathing. Years of training took over. Fear was still there but controlled, channeled into focus. I had advantages Reaper didn't know about. I had backup he couldn't see. I had prepared this battlefield. But he was still Reaper.
Still the best.
The warehouse door opened slowly. I saw a shadow move in the darkness, impossibly quiet, impossibly smooth. Reaper didn't announce himself, didn't call out. He was assessing, evaluating, looking for the trap he assumed was there. I'm alone, I called out, my voice echoing in the empty space. Tony said you wanted to talk.
Victoria Kane.
The voice was familiar. I'd heard it before in training sessions and briefings. Calm, professional, utterly without emotion. You've made interesting choices. I made the right choices. I discovered the truth about TRU, about what they really are. And what are they really? Murderers. Criminals operating under legal cover. They killed my father. They killed Andrea's father. They've killed hundreds of people who threatened their operations. Reaper stepped into a shaft of moonlight coming through a broken window. I saw him clearly for the first time in years. He'd aged well. Still moved like a predator. Still had that aura of absolute competence and danger. Your father was collateral damage, Reaper said. He was going to expose sensitive operations. Operations that keep this country safe. Sometimes individuals have to be sacrificed for the greater good. That's what they told you? That's what you believe? You're just following orders, eliminating threats, serving the greater good. I am. Just like you were until you let emotion compromise your judgment. You fell for the target, Victoria. Oldest mistake in the book. Andrea Vitelli is a criminal. He runs an organized crime family. He profits from illegal activities. Those are facts. He's also the only one trying to expose Thierry's corruption. He has evidence of illegal operations, of murders, of crimes that make his organization look harmless by comparison. And Thierry wants him dead before that evidence goes public. Evidence can be fabricated. Stories can be manipulated. You're being used. Then let's test it. Let's release the evidence publicly and see what happens. If it's fake, it'll be discredited immediately. If it's real, people deserve to know what their government has been doing in their name. Reaper shook his head. That's not how this works. That's not how any of this works. You've gone rogue. You've compromised operations. You've sided with a criminal. There's only one outcome now. He moved fast, impossibly fast. His weapon came up, and I dove behind cover as shots rang out. The bullets hit exactly where I'd been standing.
No guasti motion, no hesitation. Pure letal efficiency.
I returned fire, forcing him to cover. This was the dance now. Move and counter-move. Hunter and hunted, constantly switching roles. You can't win this, Victoria, Reaper called out. You know you can't. I'm better trained, more experienced, more committed. This ends one way. Maybe, I called back. Or maybe you're so used to being perfect that you've forgotten how to adapt when things don't go according to plan. I moved again, changing position, forcing him to recalculate. In my ear, Andrea's voice came through the calm. He's trying to flank you. Moving to your left. I don't have a clean shot. Don't take it unless you're certain, I whispered. We need him alive if possible.
Why?
He came here to kill you. Because he's a victim too. Thierry has been using him the same way they used me. He deserves a chance to know the truth. More shots. Reaper was methodically eliminating my cover, forcing me into an increasingly smaller area. He was good. Better than good. I could feel him reading my movements, predicting my actions, tightening the noose. Then something unexpected happened. Reaper's weapon jammed. Just for a second, just a momentary malfunction. But it was enough. I moved fast, closed the distance, and we engaged hand to hand. This was where Reaper excelled. Close quarters combat. He'd trained for thousands of hours. Won every competition. Never lost a fight. His first strike came at my head with enough force to kill. I barely blocked it. His second strike targeted my knee. I shifted just enough to avoid catastrophic damage. We traded blows in the darkness. Every technique I'd learned, he'd learned better. Every move I made, he countered. I was fighting the best operative TRU had ever produced, and I was losing. He got me in a hold, his arm around my throat, cutting off air and blood flow. I had maybe 5 seconds before I passed out. In my ear, I heard Andrea shouting, heard movement, heard chaos. With my last bit of consciousness, I did something Reaper wouldn't expect. Instead of trying to break the hold, I relaxed completely. Went limp. It threw off his balance just enough. I dropped my full weight, twisted and broke free. Gasping for air, I rolled away and came up with my weapon drawn. Reaper was already recovering, already moving to end this. But then Andrea was there, his rifle aimed at Reaper's head. Don't move, Andrea said. I will put you down. Reaper froze, calculating odds. Could he move fast enough to avoid the shot? Could he take down both of us? I saw him running scenarios in his head, looking for the winning move. It's over, I said, still catching my breath. You're outnumbered, outmaneuvered, and we have backup you can't see. You can't win this. Then kill me, Reaper said calmly. Because if you don't, I'll just keep coming. That's what I do. That's what I am.
No.
You're what TRU made you.
Just like they made me.
But you can choose something different. You can see the truth and decide for yourself what's right. I know what's right. Following orders. Completing missions. Serving my country. By killing innocent people? By protecting criminals? By helping cover up corruption. I moved closer, keeping my weapon trained on him. Reaper, I was used 6 weeks ago. I believed everything TRU told me. I thought I was serving justice. Then I found evidence. Proof that everything I believed was a lie. That my father was murdered by the organization I dedicated my life to. That the targets I eliminated might have been innocent people threatening their operations. You're lying. I'm not. And I can prove it. We have files. 30 years of documented evidence. Names, dates, operations. Including information about you. About missions you completed. About targets you eliminated. Do you even know why those people were marked for death? Or did you just follow orders? Something flickered in Reaper's expression.
Doubt.
Uncertainty. The first crack in his absolute confidence. Come with us, I said. Look at the evidence. Make your own decision about what's true. If after seeing everything you still believe TRU is righteous, we'll let you go. But at least know what you're really fighting for. And if I don't believe you, then we're at an impasse. Because I'm not going to kill you unless you force me to. And I don't think you're going to kill me unless you're absolutely certain I'm the enemy. So we can stand here in stalemate, or we can go somewhere and talk like rational people. Reaper looked between me and Andrea, calculating. Finally, he lowered his weapon. Show me the evidence. If you're lying, if this is manipulation, I'll finish what I came here to do. But if you're telling the truth. He trailed off, unable to finish the thought. If we're telling the truth, then you have to decide who you really want to be. I finished for him. We brought Reaper back to the farm. The others were tense, weapons ready, not trusting this legendary operative in their midst. But Reaper was professional. He didn't make aggressive moves. He just wanted to see the evidence. For 3 hours, James walked him through files. Missions Reaper had completed where the targets were later revealed to be whistleblowers, journalists, or government officials who threatened TRU's operations. Financial records showing TRU's involvement in illegal arms deals and drug trafficking. Communications proving that TRU had murdered people to cover up their crimes. I watched Reaper's face as he processed this information. Saw his certainty crumble. Saw him confront the reality that he'd been a weapon used by corrupt people for corrupt purposes. I killed a senator, he said quietly, staring at one file. They told me he was selling secrets to foreign governments. But according to this, he was actually investigating TRU's budget discrepancies. He was trying to expose them.
You didn't know, I said.
They lied to you. They lied to all of us. I should have questioned. Should have verified. Should have. He stopped, unable to continue. You can't change the past, Andrea said. None of us can. But you can choose what you do next. You can help us expose TRU. Make sure they can't use anyone else the way they used you. Reaper looked up, and I saw something in his eyes I'd never seen in any operative. Genuine emotion. Grief for what he'd done. Anger at being used.
Determination to make it right.
What do you need me to do? With Reaper on our side, everything changed. He knew TRU's protocols, their procedures, their operational patterns. He knew how they thought, how they planned, how they moved. And he knew their weaknesses. They're planning a major operation, Reaper explained as we gathered around the table at the farm. Full tactical team, multiple strike points, coordinated assault. They're going to hit every known associate of yours simultaneously. Overwhelming force. Eliminate everyone who knows anything, destroy all the evidence they can find, and create a narrative that you are terrorists or criminals who got what they deserved. When? Andrea asked. Within 48 hours. They're bringing in assets from around the country. Bishop is personally overseeing it. This is their endgame. Then we need to move first, I said. We need to release everything before they can act. All the files, all the evidence, everything we have. Flood the zone so completely that they can't suppress it all. That's dangerous, James warned. If we release everything at once without proper coordination, without media partners ready to run with it, without legal protections in place, it could backfire. TRU could discredit it as fake news or conspiracy theories. So we coordinate fast, Sarah said. I have contacts at major news organizations who've been begging for a story like this. Multiple outlets simultaneously, so TRU can't pressure any single one. I can have them ready to publish within 12 hours. We also need insurance, Chen added. Dead man switches, automatic releases, if anything happens to any of us. Make it clear that killing us won't stop the information from coming out. We worked through the night, each person contributing their expertise. Sarah contacted journalists and verified their credibility. James prepared legal documents protecting us under whistleblower statutes. Chun set up redundant distribution systems with automatic triggers. Alex created a website that would host all the files, distributed across servers worldwide that TRU couldn't take down. Dmitry coordinated security, preparing defensive positions in case TRU moved before we were ready. And I worked with Reaper, planning for what would come after. Because even if we exposed TRU, even if we brought down Bishop and the senior leadership, there would be consequences. People would come after us for revenge, for silencing, for making sure we couldn't testify. We need a way out, I said to Reaper. An escape plan. New identities, secure locations, resources to disappear if necessary. I have contacts, Reaper said. People who've helped operatives disappear before. They're not cheap, but they're reliable. Andrea has money. That's not the issue. The issue is whether we want to disappear. Because if we run, if we hide, we can't testify. We can't be part of making sure justice actually happens. Sometimes survival is more important than justice. Not this time. My father died trying to expose this. Andrea's father died for the same reason. If we disappear, we make their deaths meaningless. We need to stay and fight until this is finished. Reaper studied me. You've changed since I knew you at TRU. You were always good, but you were obedient. You followed orders without question. Now you question everything. Someone I care about taught me that blind obedience to authority is how good people end up doing terrible things. Sometimes the most loyal thing you can do is refuse orders that are wrong. Andrea? Yeah. You love him. It wasn't a question. I considered denying it, but what was the point?
Yes. I do.
Does he know? Probably. We haven't exactly had time for deep emotional conversations while running for our lives. After this is over, assuming we survive, what's your plan? I don't know. Figure out who I am outside of being a weapon. Maybe try to have a normal life. Maybe just try to be happy for once. I hope you get that chance. By morning, we were ready. The files were prepared, the journalists briefed, the legal protections in place, the distribution systems primed. All we needed was Andrea's final approval to proceed. I found him outside, watching the sunrise. He'd been quiet for the last few hours, contemplative. Isabella was with him, the two of them talking softly. Everything's ready, I said. We can release it all within the hour. Andrea nodded but didn't speak immediately. Isabella looked at me with tears in her eyes. I'm scared, she admitted. Once we do this, there's no going back. Our lives will never be normal again. They were never going to be normal, Andrea said gently. TRU made sure of that when they decided we were threats. At least this way we control the narrative. We tell the truth instead of having lies told about us. What about after? Isabella asked. After the files are released and the investigations start and the trials happen?
What do we do then?
We rebuild, Andrea said. We find a way to live with what we've done and what's been done to us. We try to be better than the people who hurt us. Isabella hugged her brother tightly. I'm proud of you. Dad would be proud too. After Isabella went back inside, Andrea turned to me. Are you ready for this? Really ready? Because once we start, there's no stopping. We're committed. I'm ready. Are you? I've been ready since I found my father's files. Since I realized that he died trying to do exactly what we're about to do. This is bigger than revenge or justice or even survival. This is about making sure no one else's father dies for asking questions. No one else's life gets destroyed for threatening powerful people. I took his hand. Then let's finish this. We went inside. Everyone gathered. Sarah had her laptop open, ready to send the signal to media outlets. Chun had his finger hovering over the button that would activate the website and distribution systems. James had legal documents ready to file the moment we went public. Last chance, Andrea said. Anyone who wants out, who wants to walk away, can do so now.
No judgment.
This is dangerous, and the consequences will be severe. But once we commit, we're all in this together. No one moved. No one spoke. The silence itself was answer enough. Do it, Andrea said. Sarah pressed send. The files started flowing out to journalists around the world. Chun activated the website. Within seconds, 30 years of documented TRU corruption was available for anyone to see. Names, dates, operations, financial records, recordings. Everything. The first news alert appeared 15 minutes later. Breaking, massive leak exposes government corruption. Then another. And another. Within an hour, every major news outlet was covering it. The files were being analyzed, verified, reported on. People were being arrested. Officials were resigning. The entire apparatus that TRU had built to protect itself was crumbling in real time. We watched it unfold on screens, barely able to process that we'd actually done it, that we'd exposed them, that we'd won. Then Dimitri's security alert went off. We've got company. Multiple vehicles approaching from all directions. Heavy weapons. This is a major assault. The euphoria vanished instantly. TRU is coming. Even with their operations exposed, even with the files public, they were coming to silence us. How many? Andrea demanded. At least 20 operatives. Maybe more. They're not even trying to be subtle. This is overwhelming force. We moved into defensive positions. The farm had good sight lines, but we were outnumbered and outgunned. This was TRU's final play. If they couldn't suppress the information, they'd at least make sure we couldn't testify about it. We need to evacuate, I said. Get Isabella out first. She's the priority. I'm not leaving you, Isabella said. You have to. You're the only one who hasn't done anything illegal. You can testify, you can be a witness, you can finish this if we can't. But only if you survive. Andrea looked at his sister, and I saw the decision he was making. The hardest decision. Reaper, get her out. Use whatever means necessary. Get her somewhere safe, and keep her alive.
Andrea, no, Isabella protested.
Yes. I can't lose you too. I can't. Andrea hugged her.
Go. Live.
Be happy. That's all I ever wanted for you. Reaper moved quickly, guiding Isabella toward a vehicle we'd prepared for emergency evacuation. She was crying, fighting, but Reaper was professional and efficient. Within minutes, they were gone. The rest of us spread out through the farmhouse. Windows barricaded, weapons ready, communications established. We were prepared to make a stand. But as the TRU vehicles surrounded the property and operatives took up positions, I realized something. We couldn't win this fight. There were too many of them. Too much firepower. We'd expose them, yes. We'd release the information. But they were going to kill us anyway. Andrea came to where I was positioned, overlooking the main approach. We did it, he said. Whatever happens now, we did what we set out to do. We did. But Andrea, I need to tell you something. In case we don't make it through this.
What?
I love you. I know the timing is terrible and the circumstances are insane, and we're probably about to die. But I need you to know that. You changed my life. You showed me what it means to have principles and stand by them. You made me believe that maybe I could be more than just a weapon. Andrea pulled me close, kissed me like the world was ending. Which maybe it was. I love you too. From the moment you saved my life at that card game, even though I later found out it was staged. From the moment I saw you question your assumptions and choose truth over comfortable lies. You're the bravest person I've ever met. A loudspeaker crackled. Commander Bishop's voice echoed across the property. This is your final warning. Surrender now, and we'll consider mercy. Continue to resist, and we'll use lethal force. Andrea and I looked at each other, smiled despite everything. Neither of us was surrendering. Then I guess this is it, I said. Then I guess we go out fighting, Andrea replied. The first shots rang out, and the final battle began. The firefight was intense, but controlled. Thierry wasn't trying to kill us immediately. They were testing our defenses, probing for weaknesses, trying to force a surrender. They still hoped to take us alive, interrogate us about what else we might know, tie up loose ends. That gave us an advantage. We knew they'd be cautious. And caution meant opportunity. Chen, I called over the comm. Tell me you have something that can help here. Working on it, Chen's voice came back. I'm into their communications network. They're coordinating through encrypted channels, but the encryption is standard TRU protocol, which means Reaper told me how to break it. Can you disrupt it? Better. I can feed them false information. Make them think we've evacuated or that we have reinforcements coming or whatever you want. Tell them we're surrendering, that we want to negotiate. Buy us time. Chun worked his technical magic. Within minutes, the shooting stopped. Bishop's voice came over the loudspeaker again. I'm told you want to negotiate. Send one person out. Unarmed. We'll talk. Andrea started to move, but I grabbed his arm. This is my play. I know how Bishop thinks. I know what he'll respond to. Let me handle this. Victoria, he's the one who killed your father. He's the one who's been using you for years. Sending you out there is exactly what he wants. I know. That's why it'll work. I walked out into the open, hands raised, no weapons visible. TRU operatives had taken positions all around the farm. At least 30 of them, maybe more. All armed, all trained, all ready to kill on Bishop's command. Bishop stood near one of the vehicles, looking exactly as I remembered. Silver hair, sharp eyes, the bearing of someone who'd spent decades in command. He smiled when he saw me. Victoria. I was hoping it would be you, Commander. We need to talk. About surrender terms? I'm afraid those are quite simple. You tell us everything about what you've released, who you've given information to, what other copies exist. Then you stand trial for treason. If you cooperate, perhaps we can avoid the death penalty. That's not happening. The files are already out. The media has them. The public can access them. Your operations are exposed. It's over. Is it? The files show some unfortunate operational decisions, yes. But nothing that can't be explained or justified in the name of national security. You've made things messy, Victoria. But messy can be cleaned up. Especially once the key witnesses are eliminated. That's why you came here. To kill everyone who knows the truth. To neutralize threats to national security. There's a difference. He stepped closer. But here's what I don't understand. Why did you betray us? We trained you. We gave you purpose after your father died. We made you into something exceptional. And you threw it all away for what? A criminal? A crime boss who deals in violence and corruption. I threw it away when I found out you murdered my father. Your father was going to compromise critical operations. Operations that save lives. Sometimes difficult decisions have to be made. He was asking questions about illegal activities, about corruption, about crimes being committed under the cover of classified operations. He was doing the right thing and you killed him for it. I did what was necessary, just like I'm going to do what's necessary now. Bishop pulled out a weapon and aimed it at me. You were my best operative, Victoria. I genuinely regret this. Then don't do it. Walk away. Let this end without more death. You know I can't do that. The shot rang out, but it didn't come from Bishop's gun. It came from behind him. Bishop staggered, looked down at the blood spreading across his chest, and fell. Behind where he'd been standing, Reaper lowered his weapon. No one kills Victoria Kane except me. And I've decided I don't want to do that anymore. Chaos erupted. TRU operatives didn't know who to shoot at. Their commander was down. Their communication system was compromised. Their entire operational structure was falling apart. Stand down, Reaper shouted, his voice carrying authority. All TRU operatives stand down. This operation is over. The files are public. Leadership is compromised. We're done taking illegal orders. Some operatives lowered their weapons. Others looked confused. A few aimed at Reaper, unsure what was happening. Then sirens filled the air.
Policia vehicles, FBI vehicles, Marshal vehicles.
Sarah had been coordinating with law enforcement the entire time. Once the files went public, once evidence of crimes was available, legitimate law enforcement had legal grounds to act. All TRU operatives, drop your weapons, a voice boomed over a police loudspeaker. You're surrounded. Any resistance will be met with lethal force. I watched as, one by one, TRU operatives lowered their weapons and raised their hands. They were trained to follow orders. And now the orders were to surrender. It was over. Actually over. Andrea came out of the farmhouse, followed by the others. We stood together, watching as TRU operatives were taken into custody. Watching as the organization that had controlled us, used us, tried to kill us, was finally brought down. Isabella appeared with Reaper, having circled back once she heard the shooting stop. She ran to Andrea, and they embraced. Is it really over? She asked. It's really over, Andrea said. Federal agents approached us carefully. You're Andrea Vitelli?
Victoria Kane?
We need you to come with us. For your protection and for questioning. Are we under arrest? I asked. Not at this time. But given the magnitude of what you've exposed, we need statements. Documentation. Your cooperation with ongoing investigations. We agreed. What choice did we have? But as they led us away, I looked back at the farm. At the place where we'd made our stand. At the location where we'd chosen to fight rather than run. We'd won. Against impossible odds, against one of the most powerful covert organizations in the country, we'd actually won. But I knew this wasn't the end. It was just the beginning of a new phase. Investigations, trials, testimony. Years of legal proceedings. Years of looking over our shoulders, wondering if someone from TRU's remaining network would come for revenge. Still, as Andrea took my hand and we walked toward the federal vehicles together, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Hope. 18 months later, I stood in a federal courthouse watching the final verdicts come in. Guilty on all counts. The remaining TRU leadership, everyone who'd participated in the corruption, the murders, the cover-ups. All found guilty. My father's name had been cleared, officially recognized as a whistleblower who died trying to expose corruption. Andrea's father received the same recognition. Their names were being added to a memorial for those who'd given their lives in pursuit of truth. The legal proceedings had been long and exhausting. Months of testimony, of reliving trauma, of facing down people who wanted us dead. But we'd survived. All of us. Me, Andrea, Isabella, Reaper, Tony, who'd cooperated fully and received immunity, and the team that had stood with us. TRU was disbanded. Its assets seized. Its operations shut down. A new organization with actual oversight and accountability was being built to replace it. Not perfect, but better. I found Andrea outside the courthouse. He'd been testifying earlier in the day. He looked tired but relieved. It's done, he said. Finally done. How do you feel? Honestly? Empty. I've spent so long fighting this fight that I don't know what to do now that it's won. What do people do with their lives when they're not constantly under threat? I don't know. But I guess we get to find out together. Over the past 18 months, our relationship had deepened. We'd moved in together, started building something that looked almost like a normal life. Andrea had stepped away from his organization's illegal activities, focused on the legitimate businesses, on giving back to the community. I'd started training security professionals in ethical decision-making, in questioning orders, in choosing what's right over what's easy. I've been thinking, Andrea said, about the future, about what comes next. And I think we should disappear for a while. Take Isabella and just go somewhere quiet. Somewhere we can rest and heal and figure out who we are outside of all this. Where? I don't know. Europe maybe. South America. Somewhere we can breathe. What about your businesses? Your responsibilities? Tony can handle them. He's proven himself. He made mistakes, but he owned them, and he's worked hard to make amends. And honestly, I trust him to do the right thing now. He learned the same lessons we did. I thought about it. The idea of just leaving, of walking away from everything and starting fresh. It was tempting. So tempting. Okay, I said. Let's do it. After the last trial concludes. After all the legal obligations are finished. Let's disappear and find out what it's like to just be happy. Andrea smiled and pulled me close. I love you, Victoria Kane. You saved my life in more ways than one. I love you too. And technically, you saved mine first, by being exactly who you are. We stood there outside the courthouse, holding each other, watching the world go by. Normal people living normal lives. That's all we wanted now. To be normal. To be safe.
To be happy.
Reaper approached us. He'd been instrumental in the trials, testifying about TRU's operations, about the missions he'd completed under false pretenses. He'd faced his past with remarkable courage.
I'm leaving, he said.
New identity, new location. The government's giving me a fresh start in exchange for my testimony. Where will you go?
I asked.
Better you don't know. But thank you, both of you, for showing me there was another way, for not killing me when you had the chance. Thank you for choosing truth over blind obedience, for standing with us when it mattered. Reaper shook our hands, formal and professional to the end. Then he walked away. I wondered if we'd ever see him again. Probably not.
And that was okay.
Everyone deserved a chance to start over. Isabella found us next. She'd completed her medical degree and was planning to work in underserved communities, using her second chance at life to help others. I'm proud of you both, she said, for finishing what Dad started, for making sure his death meant something. He'd be proud of you too, Andrea said. Dr. Isabella Vitelli has a nice ring to it. I was thinking about changing my name, starting completely fresh. But then I realized, why should I? Dad's name isn't a source of shame. It's a source of pride. He stood up to corruption. He tried to do the right thing. I want to honor that. Then honor it by being exactly who you want to be, I said. By living the life he would have wanted for you. The trials concluded 2 weeks later. The final verdicts came in. Justice, imperfect but real, was served. Not everyone was held accountable. Some had fled the country. Some had made deals. But enough faced consequences that the message was clear. No organization was above the law. No one was immune from accountability. Andrea, Isabella, and I flew to a small island in the Mediterranean. A place with clear water, peaceful beaches, and no one who knew our names or our story. We rented a villa overlooking the ocean and spent our days doing absolutely nothing important. One evening, Andrea and I were watching the sunset from the terrace. Isabella had gone into town to explore. We were alone, peaceful, content. Do you ever regret it? Andrea asked. Everything that happened. Everything we went through. The pain? The fear? The constant threat of death.
Yes.
But the outcome?
No.
We exposed corruption. We brought down an organization that had been operating without accountability for decades. We saved future lives by preventing them from continuing their illegal operations. And we found each other. So no, I don't regret it. I never thought I'd end up with someone sent to kill me. I never thought I'd fall in love with my target. Life is funny that way. It really is. We sat in comfortable silence, watching colors paint the sky. Orange and pink and purple. Beautiful and temporary. Just like this moment of peace. We knew it wouldn't last forever. We knew eventually we'd have to return to reality, to responsibilities, to the aftermath of everything we'd exposed. But for now, we had this. We had each other. We had safety and peace, and the chance to just be. And that was enough. My phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. I almost ignored it, but something made me check. The work you did inspired others. There are more people like you, fighting similar fights. If you ever want to help them, reach out. I showed Andrea the message. He read it and raised an eyebrow. Are you tempted to get back into the fight? To keep exposing corruption and taking on powerful organizations?
Yeah.
I thought about it, about everything we'd been through, about the cost and the pain and the constant danger, about how hard we'd fought just to survive. Ask me again in a year, I said finally. Right now, I just want to enjoy being alive and in love and free. Fair enough. I deleted the message and put my phone away. The future could wait. The fight could wait. Right now, in this moment, we had peace. And we'd earned it. So to you, whoever's listening to this story, wherever you are, I hope you're doing well. I hope the weather's good where you are. I hope you're surrounded by people you love and people who love you back. And if you enjoyed the story, if it meant something to you, do me a favor. Hit that like button. Subscribe to this channel. Share this story with someone who needs to hear it. Because stories matter. Truth matters. Standing up for what's right, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard, that matters most of all. We all face impossible choices sometimes. We all have moments where we have to decide who we want to be. My advice?
Be brave.
Be honest. Be willing to question everything, including your own assumptions. And be ready to fight for what's right, even when the whole world tells you you're wrong. Because sometimes the people we're told are villains are actually heroes. And sometimes the organizations we're told to trust are the real monsters. The key is having the courage to see the truth and act on it, no matter the cost. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. And remember, your story matters too. Whatever fight you're facing, whatever impossible choice you're confronting, you're not alone. Stay strong. Stay true. And never stop questioning. This is Victoria Kane, signing off. Until next time.